Good evening. You all set? Welcome to the November 2nd meeting of the Town Council. If you'll kindly rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. The only announcements, excuse me, that I have are for the next upcoming meetings on Thursday, November 16th and Thursday, December 7th, our next two meetings at 7 o'clock here in the Matthew Thornton Room. Paul?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Merrimack Police Department's open house will be held this Saturday, November 4th, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. Special events to include New Hampshire Fire Marshal demonstration, K-9 anthem, K-9 demo with Sergeant Wallen and K-9 Dre, taser demo, bomb robot demo with the Nashua Bomb Squad, station tours, Merrimack PD Comfort Dog Max will be on site, Merrimack Police Department new search and rescue vehicle, incident command vehicles, search and rescue drones, New Hampshire, Southern New Hampshire Special Operations Unit, Bearcat armored vehicle will also be on site, and much, much more. The last household hazardous waste collection for 2023 is this Saturday, November 4th, from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. in Nashua at 9 Stadium Drive. For a cost of $15 per vehicle, Merrimack residents can bring up to 10 gallons or 20 pounds of waste. There is an additional charge of $1 per gallon over the 10-gallon or 50 cents per pound over the 20 pounds. Cash or checks only. If writing a check, please make the checks payable to NRSWMD. Once again, that's NRSWMD. And if you've never been to a hazardous waste collection, they're pretty amazing the way they do this stuff. You don't even have to get out of your car. They take the stuff right out of your car for you. Beginning November 15th, the library's elevator will be temporarily out of service for the refurbishment and repair project. We expect the project to take about 5 weeks to be complete. During this time, the lower level, including the children's room, restrooms, and clump room, will only be accessible using the main stairs. Please check the library's event calendar for programming updates and contact Library Director Yvette Kauser with any questions. We apologize for any inconvenience. The annual food drive is taking place now through December 31st. Non-expired canned food and non-perishable items accepted at the following locations throughout town. The Highway and Equipment Maintenance Complex at 76 Turkey Hill Road. The Fire Department at 432 Daniel Webster Highway. The Police Department at 31 Babuzik Lake Road. The Library at 470 Daniel Webster Highway. Public Works Admin, the lower level of Town Hall at 6 Babuzik Lake Road. Town Hall, upper level, 6 Babuzik Lake Road. Transfer Station and Recycling Building at 1 Farron Road. Some suggested donations include toiletries and hygiene products, applesauce, juice boxes, canned soups, macaroni and cheese, pasta, canned tuna, canned fruits and vegetables, crackers, cereal, bottled water, baby formula, diapers, and baby wipes. Donations will be brought to the two food pantries in Merrimack, St. John Newman and St. James United Methodist Church. I want to thank you in advance for helping out. That's all I have.
All right, comments from the present public. If you'd like to address the council, you could step to the mic or the table right here. And see no one. Under recognitions, resignations, and retirements, we have Parks and Rec Committee member David Shaw, who is regretfully leaving, his words, regretfully leaving the Parks and Rec Committee. He spent 2 years with the group and said he really enjoyed himself, but he's moved out of town, so it precludes him from doing that any longer. And we'll be presenting him with a certificate here, and I'll read this. It's presented to David Shaw in recognition of your service as a member of the Parks and Recreation Committee. In recognition of your dedication and commitment to public service during your appointment as a member of the Parks and Rec Committee, your service and devotion to the Parks and Rec Committee has had a valuable effect upon this community. We wish to extend to you our sincere appreciation for your outstanding performance of duty, June 2021 to August of 2023. On behalf of the town council, and we thank him for service, and we'll get this to them. No appointments this evening. Our first public hearing is a consideration of the approval of the Merrimack Police Department's request to seek up to $57,142.85 in reimbursement for the Adverse Childhood Experiences Response Team activities under funding through the Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant and Substance Abuse Program grant pursuant to RSA 31:95B and Charter Article 8, Section 15. Good evening, Chief.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of Town Council. The agenda request before you is to accept $57,000, $142.85 to implement our ACERT program, which is the Adverse Childhood Experience Response Team. I came before the council last year regarding the Prevention Enforcement Treatment Officer, the grant that we received through, I'll refer to it as a COSAP, seeing that Mr. Chairman's already
I
spelled
stumbled
it all
a little
out.
bit, didn't I?
Yeah, it's a long one. So that's part of the program, and they broke out the ACERT money. So basically, the ACERT team would respond to any place that a child's been involved with experiences with police officers that might have negative impact. We go there with the police officers, social workers, and try to connect the family with resources for the child. It's a beautiful program. The money would be used for those call outs where they have to go respond, and also training other officers to understand what the ACERT program is. The money was awarded to the Amoskeag Health, and they're using the United Way as the fiscal agent. So what we'll be doing is billing the United Way the hours that are used by the Merrimack Police Department for reimbursement from that $57,000 and change.
Very good. Does anybody have any questions? Thomas?
So Chief, the ACERT program is a part of the police department?
It's part of the Prevention Enforcement Treatment Program that we entered in with the COSAP grant. Those go hand in hand, because obviously when we're dealing with addicted people, often children are involved as well. It was this program that was started by the Amoskeag Health in Manchester, and they've been using it in Manchester and Milford and other communities. So we're going to get our own team going here, where we have our own response team to go out to homes and have to seek their permissions, there's waivers and such like that, so we can talk freely and make sure they get connected with programs, but it'd be one of our officers going with clinicians and social workers.
Okay, not totally sure I understood, but the team, you're setting up a team within the police department, but it includes non-police officers as well?
Correct. We'd be contracting out with other agencies to have their clinicians come aboard with us. Basically, it's a collaborative effort. We held a meeting last week with all the stakeholders, 2 weeks ago, with all the stakeholders involved. There was about 30 people there. It's multifaceted. Several different organizations are involved, but the main contact would be our police officer, who would respond to the homes with these people that aren't employed by the town.
But, so this 57,000 just goes to pay for the police officer?
Correct.
That's involved?
Correct.
Okay.
And any other trainings we do, or if we do community events,
Oh,
such
okay.
like that.
So when I was reading this, it was hard to understand that 57,000 was offered for Merrimack, or is that the amount that they received in total and we get some portion of it?
So that's the amount that was originally approved underneath the COSAP grant, which involved several communities. I think it was back then 7 communities that are either putting on a full-time officer, offering overtime for officers. Right now, we're doing it part-time because obviously our staffing's rather low. So that was the original amount that was earmarked for Merrimack, and other communities got different amounts as well. So it was
Additional amounts?
Correct. It was a
Okay.
part of our large.
Because that wasn't clear in here, because later on it talks about an amount of 40,000 allocated to Merrimack
And that was a different grant, not related to the COSAP program.
okay, that was my confusion. I just wanted to try and clear it up. Thank you.
Chief, you mentioned, I was wondering about this with our staffing shortages. What kind of time are you anticipating? Is this just as it's necessary? Or let me back up. On the training component of it, is there a lot of time invested by an officer in order to get that training that's necessary? And then after that, it's going to be an as-needed kind of.
It shouldn't be too much time. Right now, we're doing it on a part-time basis. Officer Justin Agras has been doing a phenomenal job for us. He really got the PET program up and running. But it's still, I just want to make sure the council know that this is a part-time for him, and it's being funded through overtime right now. Eventually, down the road, when we do have full staff, I'd like to put on a full-time officer, and I think we were hoping to get some quantity data that we're going to report back to you, whether we continue the programs after 3 years. So basically, it'll be short. The training's not long, probably a couple hours. So either we conduct a roll call training, extend people's shift for a couple hours. That's where the overtime for the other officers will be involved. But Justin, will eventually be going out, visiting these families with clinicians, social workers, to see if they can get the help, if they want the help, and if we can connect them with resources.
Okay. Sound like the program sounds good.
And I can tell you, I just want to report, obviously, there was several other communities involved, and by all means, we are well ahead of most other communities that are planning this stuff. So, and it's been really, really positive with the community partners that we have.
Very good. Thanks, Chief. Nancy?
Yeah, as a former DCYF employee, I think programs like this are phenomenal and so needed, because very often children who've experienced ACEs, when they see a police officer, it's traumatic. It's just, and police officers haven't always had they haven't had the time or training to intervene. So having that whole sort of team approach is wonderful. I just have, so I'm thrilled about this. I think this is phenomenal. You said there's going to be one police officer primarily?
Correct.
So what happens like on the other shifts? They can't work.
So it's usually arranged that we set up a time where it's a soft interaction too. The police officer's not in full uniform.
Yeah.
He's not, I want to say dressed down, but he's in probably polo shirt, just to sort of soften that blow, that initial contact, and hopefully be able to get the buy-in from the family to allow these resources to happen, right? So they still have to give permission for us to do that. But it be mainly that one officer. But on other shifts, that's where we're going to get other people trained as well. This program could really take off. We don't know how many contacts we're going to have. In our new records management system, we are tracking where the children are present. So that's a report that can run. And basically, right now, Officer Agraz will run that report to see who he has to reach out to.
Nancy?
So would this be visiting these children like after an incident?
Correct.
Okay, so
After
it's post.
a response, yep.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Ken?
So eventually, will the goal be to have the whole police department trained on this? Is
Correct.
that the end goal?
Correct.
And how many overall officers will be trained for the time being? Just
Well, once we start training, it'll take probably a couple months to get through everyone. But ultimately, all 45, when we're full staff, will have this training. Some of us already trained, received some training when we went to that stakeholders meeting. But basically, it's really more explained to the officers what's available and what kind of resources that we can offer.
thank you.
Okay, everybody good here for the moment? All right, this is a public hearing. I'll open it at 7:13. If anybody would like to address the council, you could step to the mic or sit next to the chief.
I guess so.
Seeing no one coming forward, I'll close the public hearing at 7:14. It's a pleasure of the council. Nancy,
I'd like to make a motion.
please.
I would like to make a motion that the town council approve the Merrimack Police Department's request to seek up to $57,142.85 in reimbursement for adverse childhood experiences response team activities under funding through the Comprehensive Opioid Stimulant and Substance Abuse Program Grant pursuant to RSA 31:95B and Charter Article 8-15.
Second.
Motion by Nancy Murphy, seconded by Barbara.
Just a quick friendly amendment
Yes.
that the town council accepts and expends the grant of,
And does Paul have to sign anything?
maybe. And of course,
Of course.
town manager is authorized to sign any and all documents for his designee.
We're good with that. Where's Bill Boyd when you
Yes.
need him? All right, if everybody understands the motion, if there's no other comments, questions, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstain, that's 700. All right, Chief. The next public hearing is to consider the approval of the Merrimack Police Department's request to seek up to $40,000 in reimbursement for adverse childhood experiences response team activities under funding through the Substance Abuse Mental Health Service Administration grant pursuant to RSA 31:95B and Charter Article 8, Section 15.
Mr. Chairman, Town Council, the item before the Town Council is to accept the $40,000 to use for our ACERT team. This money was given to Amoskeag Health through a Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, so it's a different source of funding. But they received a large amount and they allocated $40,000 for Merrimack only. So same thing as before, would be used for training and home visits and getting people the resources they need.
Very good. Tom?
So Chief, you've got $97,000 here you're talking about. Are you gonna
Are you going to spend that in 1 year, or is this a until expended type
So
situation?
the COSAP grant money needs to be spent by 2024 or 2025, and the SAMHSA grant is 2026, I believe. I can get you the exact numbers, but it is spread out
I'm
over a
just
couple
trying
of
to
years.
understand if it was
Yeah,
a
it's not going to be
one-year
done in
thing
1
or-
year, no.
Okay. That sounds like a lot of money for one person on a part-time basis, but
Right, but also the training of all officers after shift and before shift, whatever, how we do it, or if we do a standalone, lumping in with another training that we have, that does go fairly quick for overtime.
okay. I'm not complaining. I mean, it's,
You know, we've been very fortunate to get these grants, and thank you, federal government and the state, and it's a good savings for us.
Yes. No, absolutely.
yeah,
Something we might not be able to do otherwise.
Correct.
Does anybody have anything further at this point? No. It's a public hearing, which I will open at 7:17. If you'd like to address the council, you could step to this mic or
More than
next to
welcome
the
to
chair. And seeing no one come forward, I'll close the public hearing at 7:18. And with the pleasure of the council, Nancy,
Like to make a motion?
please.
I move that the town council approve the Merrimack Police Department's request to seek up to $40,000 in reimbursement for adverse childhood experiences response team activities under funding through the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration grant pursuant to RSA 31:95B and Charter Article 815,
And I'll make it-
8-15.
And I'll make a second.
Motion by
And expend.
and they're saying,
Approve and expend, excuse me. Accept, excuse me,
and expend.
accept and expend, and that the town manager
Or is it
have
Authorized to sign.
authorization
There we
to
go.
sign any
All right.
necessary documentation.
a motion by Nancy Murphy, seconded by Mackenzie. Any further discussion on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
aye.
Opposed or abstained? That's 700.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief.
You're not here for our new business item? No,
He's not leaving.
All righty. Our third public hearing is the consideration and acceptance of a donation of accent lighting and installation with an estimated value of $5,808.50 from Outdoor Lighting Perspectives of Southern New Hampshire for the Merrimack Police Department pursuant to RSA 31:95E and Charter Article 8, Section 15. Lieutenant, how are you?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the Town Council. This item is a donation of $5,808.50 of accent lighting donated by Outdoor Lighting Perspectives of Southern New Hampshire. I wanted to clarify, this lighting is a permanent fixture attached to the roof line of the building, so it's not something you take down every year. If you haven't seen the police department at night, it's pretty dark and uninviting. The accent lighting will brighten it up, and with over 16 million color options. Yeah, so it's pretty interesting. These lights can be used to celebrate certain holidays or occasions, promote cancer awareness, or shine blue for law enforcement. These are only a few examples. All we have to do is download the app, and we can punch in whatever we want. So it's pretty interesting. It's really nice. I don't know if you guys have seen the preschool next door to the PD. They have somewhat of accent lighting, but it's completely different than this. The lights that are donated, they're actually small discs. They're not actual lights, so you don't even see them. So it's nice. You won't see them all year except when they're on. So that is all I have. If you have any questions.
Do you know where the old Wang building is in Chelms? I think it's Chelms, Lowell maybe at that point.
Lowell,
Do you know that building?
Yeah, I know the old one. Yes.
Yeah, you ever see the lighting at night? Is that what you're kind of talking about?
Yeah, it kind of shines down as
Yeah.
opposed to up. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. I now know exactly what you're talking about.
So yes, that was my question. The lights do shine down, they don't shine out. And
Right.
the pool of light is restricted to that area.
Yep.
Because we do have code in town that talks about outdoor lighting and building lighting, and
Yes, these are attached to the top.
you wouldn't want to
very
be out
top
of code.
the roof. And they shine down, so
Great.
you don't even see them.
All right. Anybody have any questions?
No.
All right. It's a public hearing, so I'll open the public hearing at 7:21. Anybody, would like to address the council, you can step to this mic or sit next to the lieutenant explain. And seeing no one coming forward, I'll close the, did I say 7:21? I'll close the public hearing at 7:22 then. And there's no further questions or discussion. Anybody would like to make a motion? Barbara?
So I'd like to make a motion to accept and expend a donation of $5,808.50. I should have put my glasses on. Of accent lighting from Outdoor Lighting Perspectives of Southern New Hampshire. With
Thanks.
with thanks, and allow the town manager to sign any and all appropriate documents.
Second.
Motion by Barbara, seconded by Nancy Harrington. Any discussion on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained, 7-0-0. Thanks. Legislative updates, if there are anybody of our, and we see nobody here, no emails, Paul?
No emails.
All right, we'll move on. Town manager's report.
Quiet time.
Just want to say that Finance Director Adam Brennan's been working diligently with the state of New Hampshire to get the tax rate set. Hopefully, the tax rate will be set next week, and then tax bills should follow shortly after that, probably mid-November. Tax bills will be going out to all individuals.
Oh, good.
So, and they'll be due, I don't know, it all depends on when Town Clerk, Tax Collector Trippett gets the warrant signed. So just counselors, just be on the lookout next week for a text from Becky saying, please come in and sign the warrant. So once you sign the warrant, we can get that over to Diane so she can start running tax bills. And as always, we will put the chart in the tax bill showing where your money goes.
That's it.
All right. It was a slow week.
Very good. Guys, sorry about that. You think I was new at this.
Before we go there, I do have one other announcement.
Did you want me to announce what it was again for the sake of the microphone?
Yeah, but before you go there, town managers, I have one other thing.
Oh, okay.
I forgot about mentioning this. Tomorrow at 10 o'clock, we will have a groundbreaking ceremony to kick off the project of the Sauhegan River Trail. So 10 o'clock at Watson Park, we will be having a groundbreaking ceremony.
Thank you, Paul. And now that the mic's on, council's to be receive an update on the status of the 800 megahertz communication system. And Chief Franzo,
Good evening.
welcome back.
Yes, it's been such a long time.
Thank you.
So just basically, as the town council is aware, you guys approved us to move ahead with jumping on the city of Nashua's 800 megahertz trunking system to improve radio communications around the town of Merrimack for both the police and fire departments. I just would like to break down a brief timeline of how things happened and where we stand and where we need to go from here. So November 2021, we received our program dual band radios, meaning that they'll have the VHF radio and also the 800 system radio on one portable. That was in November 2021. In December 2021, the mobile radios were installed in the police vehicles and fire vehicles. In March of 2022, the Motorola came to the station to install the new 800 megahertz system. In April 2022, the field testing and acceptance of the 800 system, meaning the Motorola text came here, they checked everything out, everything's working fine, and we signed off on the acceptance of the system. In April, so then we started looking around for sites in Merrimack, and it was been quite a difficult situation to find a good proper site because Merrimack has a lot of terrain. We were able to locate a Verizon cell phone tower on Whitetail Drive, which is a new development off of Wilson Hill Road. And Verizon was, so we began communications with Verizon's to make sure that they were allowed this to go on their site. Also, while Motorola also conducted coverage maps, and the coverage from that area was remarkable. They were very impressed. They said this is an adequate site. Of course, there's never such a thing as 100% coverage, but it was the best location for us to put a site there. So we began a dialogue with Verizon to see if they were willing to let us do it. And for public safety, they would allow us to put our equipment on their tower. However, it was a monopole design, which means it's one single pole. and we looked at everything, talked to engineers, and it wouldn't be suitable for us to be on their pole. So basically, we would have to construct another cell phone tower right next to theirs. And we talked to community development about, does this have to go before zoning and existing RSAs in New Hampshire? If the cell phone tower is already there, we don't have to go back through the zoning process. Of course, when we start building, we'll have to get building permits and such like that. So that was a good relief. So Verizon talk, we were waiting on Verizon for some time to come back with an agreement. But during that time, in April 2023, this past year, the sales rep from Motorola reached out to me saying, hey, just to let you know, there's going to be a 30% increase on equipment next month. So if you don't sign off on this, what we had already ordered, not ordered, it's basically pre-designed equipment. So I conducted the customer design review with Motorola just to secure the price that we originally had that I presented to the town council, so that to avoid that increase, because that would have been quite a significant jump, but that's where everything's going right now. So that was conducted. In July 2023, we received the first sublease from Verizon, which Town Manager McCallie forwarded off to our town attorneys. And obviously, they want to look at the best interest of the town of Merrimack and make sure it's favorable to us while being favorable to Verizon. It's a fair contract. So they began to work on an amended agreement, and that was sent over in September of 2023. And then it sort of stalled out. We didn't hear, they were very all on board. I think that week that we got the sublease from Verizon, our town attorney spoke to Verizon attorney. He was like, "Oh yeah, we can work with this." So it was kind of it just stalled out for a little bit.
September 23.
Yes, it was past September. So obviously it was frustrating waiting that long to have an agreement, but at the same time, we really truly appreciate Verizon allowing us this opportunity. That shouldn't be mistaken here. And so, just a couple weeks ago, knowing that the communications just stalled out, I reached out to Director Doyle at the New Hampshire Emergency Services and Communications Division to see if we can get some kind of plug with Verizon. And within a couple hours, a member from the SWIC, the Statewide Interoperability Committee, called me. We were on the phone with Verizon rep to hopefully start greasing this wheel. I was hopeful. Didn't hear anything back for a week. I reached back out to the contacts I was provided, and then this past Monday, the attorney did email back our attorney saying that they're going to be working on it right away. So I believe she plans on reaching out at the end of the week to discuss to see where they're at with it. So we've been trying to stay on it, but at the same time, you gotta be careful, make sure they don't want to pull it out from underneath us, because this would be an ideal location. So the fire department went to start using the 800 system in March of 2023. The police department, we have not gone over to it because we know the coverage isn't completely, we're more roving than the fire department is. Obviously, our RSs are all throughout town, and we know that it's not complete coverage, so we haven't switched to it. We have used it for our special events, which has been great. We've used it for serious events, such as the Maple Ridge when we had that barricade subject in Maple Ridge. So it worked great. Unfortunately, with the tree growth and the amount of moisture we had this past summer, the fire department signals has really diminished. I'm not sure if the chief wants to speak on that.
So thank you. So yeah, we decided to move to the 800 system. We're having some difficulties with the VHF network, which is why the town opted to choose 800. So the decision was made to move to 800 because there didn't seem to be much difference between the VHF coverage and the 800 coverage. The 800 coverage gave us a clearer signal. The dispatchers were able to hear us clearer. So there were some advantages to moving to 800. We developed a plan that if the 800 didn't work, to go back to the VHF network, because that may probably work depending upon the area that you're at. So we have experienced some issues with the 800 system. And again, since we started in early spring, we really didn't go full on 800 till probably about May, because we had a lot of different things to work through. We actually found that our portable radios don't work well in our own building here at 432 Dan Webster Highway. So we had to overcome that issue and figure some things out. So there's been a lot of work that has gone into us being on 800. We've invested a lot of monies in some equipment and some new options within our buildings so that our staff can hear what's going on and have situational awareness. Because before, everything was VHF, so we had no 800 listening abilities within the stations. So we were able to put some things together and get things to function and work. So as the time went on throughout the year, the signal seemed to get less and less. And in working with Bill Mansfield, who's the communications director for the city of Nashua, his thoughts were that perhaps the vegetation growth, because we did have such a wet season this year, may have been more than normal. And because the RF radio frequency waves that go out from a radio can get absorbed by vegetation and all different types of things, that may have hampered our signal strength ability. Because remember, we don't have a tower structure here in Merrimack yet. So we're using towers off of the Nashua system. So it's got to make it all the way back to Nashua in order for it to work, and get us to communicate. So, but overall, it's been better in some areas than VHF. So we're still working through whatever we can to keep things moving along.
So,
So just to clarify too, VHF for fire and police are different. They're an analog signal. A while ago, we switched over to digital signal. So that's why we're not experiencing the amount of VHF problems at the fire department. Just I want to make sure the council knew that. At the police side, we have relatively few issues with radios, and that's why we were comfortable staying on VHF. So just moving forward here, one of the next steps, we've already secured a structure, basically a structure where all the equipment's going to be housed for the site. This was done through the state of New Hampshire. They were getting rid of one. So Bill Mansfield reached out to Director Doyle, and lo and behold, we saved a lot of money by having a large concrete structure that's located at Highway to Garage. I know that they want it gone soon, but hopefully it'll be gone soon. So we have that structure there. We refitted the doors. Next thing that can be going on there is doing electrical there on that site. So once we do move it up there, there'll be less work. But before we can really do anything, proceed with the next steps of having our own tower in Merrimack, we need to have that signed agreement. Because we have asked if we can do soil samples, test pits, whatever, and Verizon won't let us go on the site, which I understand. It's still their site without an agreement. So once that agreement's signed, we'll hire an engineering firm and a project manager to basically watch the project go through. And that's going to involve test pits, soil samples, have that sent over to design for the foundation for the tower, to determine what type of foundation it needs, and then basically break ground and hopefully put the tower up and get this thing going. So there's a lot more work to be done, but hopefully by the end of the week, we'll hear a little bit more from Verizon and the attorneys, and we can start moving forward the project.
So the foliage issue will be gotten rid of when we build this tower.
Oh, absolutely. So right now, basically, we're primarily working off Kessler Farms in Nashua, which is off exit 8. So
So it's a distance.
yeah, so it is a good distance away. But once this site is built up on Whitetail, like I said, the coverage maps, we will not have any issues. And like I said, there's no such thing as 100% coverage. So there might be little fluke areas where you have some problems, and that's where you have to rely on your other options.
And the tower we've anticipated in all of our planning.
Yes, it is.
And the other thing is, guys, it's a grant from the federal government. So,
Yep.
so we're working on $1.4 million grant from the federal government to build a tower, get the electric up there, and get everything going. And we feel that that should suffice. It also help with purchasing some of the equipment that we bought.
Nancy?
Just a curiosity question. Since we're losing leaves, are you finding an improvement by any chance?
We hope to.
You
Again,
haven't yet.
we haven't noticed anything as of yet, but we did create a coverage map. As we found problem areas, we drew them out on a map and color coded where areas were poor, where areas were okay. And then if there was no colors, then we knew that area was pretty a good area to use. So
Because
we do have
all of a sudden,
mapping.
if it starts improving, that will prove it was the vegetation.
Correct.
If it
That's,
stays the same, then it perhaps is something else.
it could be something else, right? But we won't know till we continue to use it, figure out where our problem areas are and what's going on with the network, so.
Barbara?
So what is the agreement issue that the lawyers are working on?
Just to make sure it's favorable language to the town of Merrimack and Verizon. There was a couple of question marks in there that the town manager McCallie picked up on that we didn't feel comfortable was a good suit for Merrimack. It's more of a, they sent over their agreement to us, and basically through the attorneys, we're able to make sure that the town was protected.
So what happens if they won't budge?
Then we're gonna probably have to start looking at finding a piece of land and constructing a tower, which will take quite a bit longer time.
Yeah, because it's been 2 years already, so.
Yep, and they have to go through the zoning processes, and so it just, so I'm hopeful, so hopefully we can.
Okay.
And the attorney sounded pretty hopeful that they could reach some kind of agreement.
I have a sense that it was just something that wasn't as important to, maybe to Verizon as to the town, so
Right.
it maybe it wasn't getting the notice that it otherwise.
Well,
might
my
be now.
understanding was it was little communication from Verizon too. It was difficult to have them respond. And fortunately, we had a resource that gave us a little bit clearer communication.
So we met with Verizon up at the site a couple times, and I can assure you that I think what happens is it just gets bogged down in legal, right?
Exactly.
The context that we've spoken to, the guy's named Chip Fredette from Verizon, he's been phenomenal, been very receptive, very communicative. So I think
But
with
they're a
everything
bureaucracy as well.
with everything that goes to legal, it just takes
So it's not
a
just
lot more time.
Not just government, even business.
Well, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Andy and then Tom.
When we first did this, I remember that. I remember. Good. Okay. I remember we wanted to purchase the shelter to put the equipment in, but I thought we had a location and a tower, and we were not going to be in the tower building business. But now it sounds like we are building a tower.
All along the proposal was to build our own tower once we found a suitable location. But when we found Verizon, we were hopeful that we could make some modifications to that monopole, but it just can't be done. Engineering says it's possible to have our equipment on that monopole.
Okay.
But the original proposal was to build our own site with our own structure.
And
And,
that
and
was in
structure,
the-
I mean, that's the actual tower. We call it.
that was in the original phase 2 budget, is to build a tower.
Correct. So the first phase, well, this is before we received the grant, but
Right.
the first phase was to get the equipment running, run off Nashua, get the dispatch up and running, and then in speaking with Town Manager McCallie, we were able to push that other second part of the phase 2 was building the structure, having our own
Yeah.
local site in Merrimack,
Okay.
which was a considerable cost as well.
And so right now the grant covers the entire phase 2, which is what's left of buying the structure from the state plus building the tower.
So during the grant, it wasn't broken down into phases.
Okay.
So we applied for the Congressional Direct Spending Grant through Senator Shaheen's office
Yep.
afterwards. And that's when she awarded us with, well, the federal government awarded us with $1.4 million. So that's all encompassing
Phase 1 and phase 2.
the whole project, yes.
Are we going to be outside of that budget if Verizon deal doesn't go through?
Hopefully not. I think it was 2026.
That's why I have the attorney making phone calls every other day over there to tell them that we're gonna lose our money. Because we know that once it's built and everything else, just getting the signed agreement means one thing, but we have to have it shovel in the ground and all bills paid by, I believe, 2026, so September of 2026.
So you have to have.
So so
you've
we're on.
expended the money by
Yes.
then.
So we're on a tight timeline,
Yeah.
and that's why I've talked to the attorney and I've given her authority to negotiate and to bug them as much as possible. So every couple days she calls them and says, "Hey," or sends them an email saying, "Hey, where do we stand? What's going on? Can we? Is it done?" Our attorney took the Verizon agreement. Excuse me. Took the Verizon agreement and basically looked at it and rewrote an agreement for the town and Verizon that is favorable to both of us. Instead of a one-way agreement, it's a two-way agreement. So there shouldn't be a lot of review because they already talked about it before she started to rework the agreement, and they were in agreement with what she was going to rework. They just have to read it, dot the i's, cross the t's, and this is a third-party legal firm for Verizon as well. So they're doing other work. Guy was on vacation. He was sick. We've heard it all. So, but the $1.4 million should suffice what we have left to build. We should have enough money to complete the project.
Okay.
As long as we don't have to go off-site and buy additional land.
And then it becomes a race to a timeline. If you can't get it spent, you lose that money. And so not only will it be the additional expense of the land, but it'll be the money that you don't get spent by the 26th.
Right, we'd definitely make sure that we pre-order all the equipment and make sure Motorola has all the equipment pre-ordered to pay as much of it down as possible. So we don't lose
Yeah.
as much as, you know, that's our goal, is to spend it all and get it done. And we're hopeful that Verizon will get it done. She has a phone call to call into him tomorrow to make sure, to see if he is finished doing his review.
Thanks.
Tom, did you have something?
Yeah.
Yes, sorry about that.
So a couple of things I wanted to try and ask. First, this was sold as an incredible system that was going to have wonderful communications, and everybody was excited about it. And I'm so a little bit of surprised to hear that we're not thrilled with the performance.
So council, so that was with the system built out completely. There was never a promise that it was going to be great coverage. It wasn't until we had a site in Merrimack. So it's important for us to have a tower in Merrimack to give us that vast range of coverage. It wasn't just operating off the single site in Nashua, and that's why, because the high cost, I think the first year was like $775,000, that we split it in two phases because we knew that $1.4 million was going to be a lot for the town to handle. So that we knew that there was going to be issues in certain areas of town. But once this is fully built out with our own tower, we're not going to have any issues. Minus the caveat that there's no such thing as 100% coverage.
Okay, well, I hope that's true. You mentioned in your timeline that radios were in vehicles since December of 2021,
Correct.
but you're not even using them?
Oh no, so basically they have dual band radios in their vehicles. We have dual band radios in our vehicles. We also kept our VHF radios in our vehicles. So we use them on the police side for special events, or if there's a certain critical incident that's unfolding, and we know that we can get that channel at that location. Dispatch can hear us. We can communicate with the officers. But fire is using the dual band radios right now. So might not be using 800 for the police side of things for daily patrol functions, but we are still using the radios. Like the radios have our VHF channel programmed into it.
Okay. What's the life expectancy of these radios?
Typically, we've probably seen 7 years for mobiles, shorter on the portables.
And we'll be 2 or 3 years into them by the time we can get this tower set up. Whatever. Anyway, later on in your description of events, you talk about having to install equipment for the town and Verizon on this new tower. Is the monopole that's there coming down and
Correct.
a new tower replacing it?
Correct.
Okay.
So
I
it'd be-
misunderstood your earlier statements where you wanted to put another tower on that spot
So it will be another tower, but I failed to mention that we'll be
in
dismantling
place of the one
the
that's currently-
monopole. Correct.
which is probably what's causing Verizon so much grief, because there's going to be a time period of transfer and shift and stuff.
Well, it's Verizon's going to make out better because they're going to have a larger tower.
I-
So I think they're
Granted,
hope-
are they helping with the cost of the tower at all, or just saying, yeah, you go ahead and do whatever you want, just put our equipment on it?
No, they're not helping with the cost of the tower because obviously they're doing us a favor by giving their site to us. So we're paying for the tower. However, we're not paying for any of their equipment to go back on the new tower. So that's going to be paid for them. They're responsible for their
They're
own
going to take
equipment.
it down. They're going to take down their tower, or
We have to take it down their tower.
okay, they'll take their equipment off and put their equipment back on.
Yeah, but they're not charging us for anything for the site. It's $0.
There's no leasing?
No leasing. And a lot of times we did, back when we were having these VHF issues, we were looking at various sites around town, including the mall property with the cell phone tower way up there on the rock wall, as long as it doesn't fall over with all the ledge falling apart down there. But I mean, I think American Tower was going to charge us $1,200 a month to be on it. So and thank you for town manager reminding me to mention that it is zero cost to us. Well, zero monthly cost to us.
So where's the tower going?
Whitetail.
Yeah,
Rich?
where's White?
So off of Wilson Hill Road, it's a new development.
Oh, okay.
Goes up-
Okay.
up
Yep.
to-
It's basically the highest point in Merrimack.
Yep. And who gets the top of the tower?
That's going to be all decided between engineers.
You get a
And-
flip?
It's going to come down to engineers about where our equipment will work best with theirs, and vice versa. So I'll be honest, it's well above my pay grade, and there's people that are a lot smarter than me that can figure out where these pieces need to go.
When all else fails, get the top of the tower.
All right, Nancy? You have anything?
I just want to ask about the lease, and you answered that.
All right. We all set? Chiefs, you guys, we're all good?
Well, thank you for the
Thank you.
update.
Great
I
update.
think, I
Thank
think
you.
it's obviously frustrating for all of us, because I think we all had, I mean, I was thinking it was all being installed at this point.
I was
So
thinking
I'm
the same
sure
thing.
everybody, I'm sure the police and the fire are all getting frustrated, but I think it's important to be able to update everyone as to why it's taken so long.
Correct.
And we're all frustrated.
Our pleasure.
Excellent. Thank you,
Thank you.
guys. Appreciate it. Okay, our first item under new business, council will be presented with the details of the proposed Merrimack Police Department Teen Academy, which is an extended learning opportunity for students of Merrimack High School to learn about all facets of police work. And we have Lieutenant Tarleton and Harley Hall from the school to join us tonight. Good evening.
Three's a crowd, so.
Plenty of room.
So I'll just do some quick introductions. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to present this. I think some of you probably already met or know Bill Vandersite. He's our community services officer. And this is Harley Hall. Let him introduce himself.
Good evening. My name is Harley Hall. I am the Director of Graduation Pathways for the Merrimack School District, which includes the ELO program, which we'll be talking about here tonight.
Excellent.
So most of you are aware we've been doing a Citizens Academy for quite a few years now. I checked with Bill because I know it's been a long time. I just couldn't remember when we started, but it's been, we had 25 academies. And I think the last one we held was in 2020. COVID obviously affected that. So this would be the first one since COVID hit. And so we wanted to bring it back this year. But in talking with Bill and talking with other staff members and members of the police department, we kind of felt that the time was for some change. And so over the years, most of the participants that we've had are older demographic. No offense to older folks. I consider myself an older person now. So, but we wanted to mix things up. So obviously we're always trying to connect better with the community, in particular the youth in our community and teenagers and so forth. So I know from my son when he was in school, he graduated a couple of years ago, a lot of the kids that he was friends with had an interest in law enforcement, would ask him to ask me questions about law enforcement. They asked questions about going on ride-alongs. Did we have an Explorer program? All those types of things. So these conversations came up, and I thought it might be a good idea to have a teen academy. And when I say teens, these are kids ages 16 to 18. This academy is going to be focused on Merrimack High School students. The grades that we picked are 10th through 12th grade. And the setup or the format basically is going to continue on with the original format that we had for the Citizens Academy, which was once a week, Wednesday nights. With the adults, we did 6 to 9. We felt that 3 hours for the kids might not be a good idea, and that we're trying this out. So we're going to do 6 to 8. I think it was 8 weeks is the total time frame. The topics that were going to be covered are pretty much the same thing we were doing with the adult academy. Everything from communications to patrol functions to criminal investigations, accident investigations. We talk about polygraph. We talk about medical examiner stuff. I mean, we cover the whole gamut of everything. The kids will get a chance to meet everybody in the department, whether it's communications people, records people, the officers, all of that. Get a chance to meet everybody, get a chance to tour the facility. Ride-alongs were obviously a concern, and we've been vetting a lot of this stuff since we started this process with legal, with Primex because obviously, legal issues are always a concern, liability. So we've been working with Primex and our lawyers to kind of get through some of this stuff. And actually, Harley is very well versed in Department of Labor, Department of Education stuff, and I'll let him touch on that because he's way more better spoken than I am on that. So anyways, we've been kind of working through the process here to get this accepted and get this moving forward. I think the important thing to realize is that although the curriculum is going to stay the same, nothing we're going to be covering in this class or in these nights that we're having these discussions is going to be outside anything that Harley taught or that is being taught in the school. We're not going to be discussing or showing very sensitive material. There'll be talk of, let's say, child sex crimes and things like that, but we're not going to get into all the details and stuff like that. We're just going to be very careful about covering those types of topics. But those discussions are going to be had because it's a part of the job. And I think it's important also for kids to really clearly understand what the job entails, not so much what they see on Twitter or on Instagram or whatever they see on YouTube or hear on the news or from their parents. They get an actual chance to meet us, understand how the job works, and what the job really entails. So I think it's a really good opportunity. I think it'll be a good thing for the department. I think it's going to be a good thing for the community. Selfishly, we're going to use it as a recruitment tool too.
I'm thinking just that.
Yeah, because
For the future, yeah.
most of the kids, especially, and Harley can touch on this, but the kids that are in this class are going to be participating in this, and they're going to be getting credits. They all have an interest in law enforcement in one way, shape, or form. And not only law enforcement, some of them, I think, seek law school. So I really think that this is a good opportunity for everybody, and I think it'd be a nice change of pace from what we've been doing. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, what the thought process is with proposing this to you. So I can let Harley maybe touch on the educational side of it if that works.
Sure. Okay. Good evening again. I just wanted to touch base about some of the, again, the more sensitive topics that are often discussed. I taught criminology at the high school for 6 years, and I taught the advanced legal studies course, and we included pretty much the surface level topic and discussion of that. For context, I am a former police officer. I was a homicide and a sex crimes detective in Orlando before going into education. So when we talked about some of those sensitive topics, I made sure we broached it. I made sure we covered it, that there was always an opportunity to leave if you wouldn't. Unlike this program, I might have a student in my criminology course who didn't sign up for it because they needed a third period, and this was the only third period, and they ended up with it on their schedule. This course, this Teen Academy is not like that at all. These will be actively pursuing students who look for this, who are aware that this is going to be part of it. And in my classes, I would show a search warrant that I wrote as a detective, and it was never graphic. It was a written document, but it mentioned things that would be actively looked for, including body fluids and stuff, and it was very clear. So it's appropriate for age level developmentally, but it was never graphic. It was never over the top, as obviously it can get, but that's not exposed. That's not part of it for students. So I wanted to touch on the base, and then it seems like some of the insurance is, we use Primex too as a school, and students are covered under our Primex when they're at an ELO site, no matter where that ELO site is in the state of New Hampshire, which is why it requires a Department of Labor approval, which I've already sought because sometimes that can take a week or two, and that's pending. Honestly, the Department of Labor does not have an issue with these as long as they are assured that there is no ride along as part of it. So I sent them the curriculum and I sent them the schedule so they can see. That's always their follow-up question. So I just provided to them, and maybe we can eliminate a couple of days in the cycle. And so I know that's a concern, but while students are at the police department, they are covered under Primex for the school. No matter, what time of day, from 6 to 8, they would still be covered.
Excellent. I love the idea. Because I was thinking for future possibility employment, and that's building an interest in this type of thing is always a good thing. Used to have a lot of casual or part-time, I can remember specials, whatever you used to call them before, and that doesn't exist anymore. And it to get young people interested, and because they're choosing to do it, they shown a bit of an interest right out of the gate. I think it's good, and being able to get school credit for that type of thing is also good. But does anybody have any questions?
No, I concur. I think it's terrific. And it's not only the students who are actually attending, but students will talk to other students. And so the ripple effect, not only in terms of knowledge, but perhaps the respect related to the profession would be communicated as well. So I think it's more than just the direct students. I think it will have more, even an impact on the school, which is great. I love the idea.
From the education side, I think this is a great way for students who might be interested in science to go see the forensics aspect and decide, instead of going to school just to be a lab technician, now they're going to go be a forensic investigator or something like that. It's also good for students who might want to go to law school. So while it is a narrowly in scope in the community, which is by design, it opens those doors for students to go on all those pathways from here. And that's our intent from the school. And being able to award credit for that is new, and this is the first year we're able to do it.
Yep, wonderful. Mackenzie?
When would you envision this this program being able to start?
So we're hoping for this January. So we're kind of moving along pretty quick. But yeah, January was going to be the start time for the regular Citizens Academy. But it's going to be that would be the time frame. So
Thank you.
yeah.
Paul?
I know you got an open house coming up. Did you guys set a date yet for that, for information night?
Yes. So so we're working with Harley. I think it was November 13th.
Correct.
So November 13th, we're going to be going to the Little Theater at the high school. Harley's going to put it out to the students. And so students that are interested in doing this and parents can come to the Little Theater, and we'll be there to basically do what we're doing right now, which is to present the program and answer any questions that anybody has. So that's November 13th. You're all invited if you want to come. You're more than welcome to come to the school, and that way you get a chance to actually, interact with the parents and, see whatever concerns or questions they have. We can hopefully answer those. So,
What time did you say?
I'm sorry?
What time?
6:30.
6:30. Yeah, sorry.
And by the way, I haven't advertised that. I was yielding to making sure that we had this opportunity, but facilities are reserved and everything else. So that's the schedule.
Barbara?
So where will these classes be held?
The Merrimack Police Department in the training room downstairs, the room that we've been using for years. In the
Yep, the
same room.
downstairs.
Yep.
And legal has helped you with all of the parental permission slips?
Yes. So
Because it's a class
Harley
that's
actually
held
has.
off-site, so.
Yeah, so Harley actually is done a lot of work already and has the permission slips. So we've he forwarded them to me. We forwarded them off to legal. Legal had made some sort of suggested some tweaks. So we're working with them on those. So yeah, but that's all being worked on right now.
And permission slips are a part of what I do for every ELO, but I will have an extra one, and I have a photographic release that I use for ELOs, so I can use student likenesses for my websites and my social media, and that's also been sent to, so make sure that's passing muster so that Merrimack PD can use it as well.
How long will the academy run for?
8 weeks.
Thank you.
So ELO stands for,
So that is an extended learning opportunity. It is a program that's existed in New Hampshire for about 10 years now, maybe a little bit more. It is new to Merrimack School District, and that recognizes that learning happens outside the school. And ELOs are a way to validate that learning and bring an academic process to what students are learning through reflections and through products. And then a presentation, which is the culminating event. So all of the students that choose to do this for academic credit will do a product. They will produce something that's very targeted to their interest, and they will do a presentation. And that's on the school side of the process. But that is the meta of how they get credit. And the credit comes through us, through me, and it shows up on their transcript as an extended learning opportunity.
and so it's new to Merrimack. Do you have any other ELO programs in place?
I have 19 current ELOs running right now, with another 15 ready to start in semester 2. So I'm running the adult diploma program, also new to the district. So there's two different things. They're somewhat related, but the ELOs are taking off. I hope to do 30, and I'm probably going to double that. So it is picking up. And I have, for this particular program, through no active recruitment on my part or emails, because it's kind of building. I have 5 or 6 students that have already reached out to their school counselors or to me because of my current having taught this course for years and saying they have an interest, and I put them on the pause button. So we're hoping for 12 to 15, and I'm halfway there. So
So what kind of, so you said that they have to give a presentation back to the school at the end in order to get their final credit for it? So
Correct,
Something
yes.
that shows they were participating and paying attention and stuff
Yes.
like that. That sounds great. Are there any other expenses or anything that are involved with this, either for the students or the school or the police department?
I'll speak to the students first. I'll let Matt talk about the police department. But for the students, they will sign permission slips that they know they have to get there. That's on them. So I guess gas money. But other than that, there's no expense for the school for them to be there. My position is salaried through the district. So and I work crazy hours as it is. So I don't get overtime. So yeah, we're fine at the school district side.
There might be a small overtime expense at our end, depending on what's being taught and what those officer schedules are. So if one particular evening, I'll mention accident investigation, we would have our accident investigation people come in to present. We would probably pick and choose what team members would come in based on scheduling and so forth, because we're always, obviously, overtime's always an issue. So there might be some overtime expenses, but I don't think it's going to be substantial at all.
But it'll be the same as it had been for the Citizens Academy.
No different than
No
what we've been
expectations
doing.
of
Yeah,
difference.
and what we would have done if we just stuck with the adult Citizens Academy. So yes, no different.
And you're canceling the adult portion, or?
Oh, when I cancel, I think when, if this gets the green light and we're good to go, we'll just kind of put an announcement out over our website and just, kind of make everybody aware that we're doing it, because, people do ask, but that we're kind of mixing things up, and we're going to try this out instead and talk about all the benefits that we've mentioned already this evening. So put it out to everybody.
Okay. I mean, being an 8-week program, you're talking about January, February, maybe into March. But
It would go to the second week in March with February break, accounting for the student break too. So the students, we would not expect the students to be there during February break. So yes, depending on which day in January we start, yes, there would be a break for February.
But you wouldn't want to consider an adult Citizens Academy as a follow-on or something. Well, I've always wanted to go and never been able to.
Oh,
You're too old.
yeah. I mean, it's just, it's
I
like I
can't go to
said,
the school one, that's for sure.
and Bill can probably speak to this better than me, but it's just, we just wanted to mix things up. We wanted to make it different. We've been doing the other one for 25 years, maybe, 25 years. We're doing one a year. And we just, we wanted to do something different. And we all kind of looked at this and like, we all think it's a great opportunity, and we'll see what happens, if it runs its course and, there's not much interest afterwards, then okay, maybe we could go back, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I mean, I really think that once we get this going, I think it's going to be a good thing. And I think it's going to, it's going to build. And so, yeah, that's kind of like I said, that's kind of the thought process, just to kind of change things up a little bit.
Andy?
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You get it going, you got a new crop of kids coming in every year. Additional.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? I keep getting in trouble, but my mic's on back there. It's on. So I agree with you, Nancy. I think even if for a student that doesn't have interest in becoming a law enforcement officer, it may go a long way to regaining the respect for law enforcement that we all grew up with. So that's great. And then I also want to say to the police department, I'm always amazed at the efforts that you guys put in to be a community police department, not just a law enforcement office. So thank you very much from the community. I'm always impressed with what you guys are doing to be integrated into the community. I think it's a really good thing.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, what is necessary?
If we could get just a motion saying that you're in favor of the police department running a teen academy.
So moved. Second.
Second by Barbara. Motion by Nancy Harrington, second by Barbara. Any further discussion on the motion?
Motion was just that we agree and approve with the program?
Yep.
That's what they,
Not that I disagree with you. Not that I disagree with the program at all. I just wanted to get a clear
Clear.
understanding of what
I
we were,
understand.
That's a very good point.
what we were saying.
All right, now that we're clear on the motion,
Clearer.
call the question. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed or abstained, 700. Thanks, gentlemen. It's-
Thank you,
All right,
gentlemen.
thank you very much. We appreciate it.
I'll be anxious to hear some results when it's all done.
We'll let you know. Yeah.
Oh, we don't want to.
That's,
Maybe they could do their presentations here at the town council.
Paul, should we flip the list too? I'm assuming everybody's here just for the CIP? Whatever you want. Okay, all right. Okay, no, very good.
What are we doing?
We're moving on to the second item under new business is Finance Director Adam Britton is going to review the key financial information for the quarter ending September 30th, 2023. Good evening.
Good evening, Adam.
Paul saved you so you didn't have to sit through the CIP.
Guess he's cold.
I'm
Who's
freezing.
cold? Well, you've got a jacket right there.
Okay, did you see your message? I sent her a message.
If it gets warm, I'll be sneaking over. You don't have any socks on. You're too young, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Yes, another 30 years you'll be there.
Who doesn't have socks?
See, I have no sympathy for you. Nancy?
No, I can't.
We'll let you know. We'll let you know if it becomes a problem.
Well, you know, when you're hot stuff.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll be presenting the first quarter financials.
Are you on?
Now it is.
Okay.
I'll be presenting the first quarter financials for the town for the 2023-2024 fiscal year. Overall, a pretty decent quarter with a few areas for improvement. Starting out with health insurance costs, we were at 21.4% of our $3.74 million annual budget. We decreased $14,000 year over year, but has remained fairly steady over the last 5 years with some fluctuations. Moving on to our New Hampshire retirement system comparison. As you can see, we had a big jump in the 21-22 fiscal year and have increased a total of approximately $30,000 over the last 2 years. So we're currently sitting at 23.2% of our $3.4 million annual budget through the first quarter. This is largely due to staffing vacancies. If we were fully staffed, we'd be at 25%. Next is our overtime comparison. So we're currently at 33.5% of our $1.264 million budget. Fire and communications have both increased 6 to 7% above prior year due to staffing vacancies in order to sustain sufficient coverage, more people working more hours. And then police and solid waste have both slightly decreased versus prior year, but both are still above the expected 25% of the annual budget through the first quarter. So then they're both also dealing with staffing vacancies. So I'll be, of course, working with both police and fire chiefs going forward just to do our best in order to ensure that we're keeping our total salary line item costs within the budgeted range as much as possible.
On the fire side, I thought that they were catching up. There's still a lot of vacancies.
I believe there were still, was it 3 or 4? I know I was talking with Paul earlier today. It was around the 3 or 4 vacancies in fire. I think the same in the police.
Okay.
Staffing, and then one in communications, I believe.
Yeah, we had some workers' comp as well in fire.
Oh, yeah.
That we filled some shifts.
Okay.
So we have right now 3 vacancies. We have 3 offer letters out. 2 gentlemen have come in for one gentleman came in for a physical, one gentleman's scheduled for a physical. So we're hoping to hire them soon. Knowing that the council has stated 11 firefighters on duty as long as the money lasts. And what we've talked about with the fire chief is that you have some salary savings, and if you're going to overspend your overtime line, your salary saving line has to offset. Once they don't offset and go the other way, then decisions will have to be made about staffing.
Have we done the analysis to see if they offset right now?
They offset right at this time. They're offsetting right now. Yes, yes. There's a surplus of salary savings.
So we're expending less overtime than we're saving for those empty slots, but that's about to go away, assuming
Yes.
those offer letters are accepted.
Yeah, as soon as those people come on board, the overtime should start reducing because we don't have to fill 6 shifts a week. And that's what we have to fill right now, is 6 shifts a week.
You good? All right. Thanks, Ab. Sorry about that.
All right, moving on to our departmental summary. We're sitting at a strong overall position with only approximately 20% of our total annual budget spent through the first quarter. That's in the general fund, and it's approximately the same once you add in the other funds as well. The heavy welfare spending is mainly due to front loading our agencies in July at the beginning of the fiscal year. And also solid waste spending is due to encumbering all appropriations for tipping fees upfront as well. So then our last slide is our revenue, also at a strong position here with 29.4% of budget for the first quarter. Interest, we're at 31.3%. That's an additional $60,000 year over year. With building permits, we're at 41.8% of budget. We expect this to slow as construction and building slow during the colder months. And then with auto registrations, we're at 28.8% of budget. That's an additional $130,000 year over year due to people moving into the additional apartments in town. So overall, we're in good shape for the first quarter. We're at a strong spot and a good springboard to move forward.
Excellent.
Any questions?
Good. Just want to make sure the numbers we were looking at are they're not actuals to date, they're actuals to end of Q1.
Yes.
Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
Thank
Overall,
You went unscathed for your first time.
I think I got lucky by the decent results.
Thanks, Ab.
Thank you.
It's always easier to deliver good news.
Yeah. All righty.
Okay.
Final item under new business. We're going to have our discussion regarding the details of the 24 to 30 CIP. Thank you for everybody for being here. Sorry it's late.
I can make this as quick
Amos,
or as long as necessary. So, the capital improvement plan, I'm bringing forward this tonight. Is for the 2024 to 2030 capital season. Just want to iterate a couple things about why we do a capital improvement plan in the town for those people that this is a new process for. Charter Article 8-9 and a planning board directive of 1984 at town meeting is to prepare and maintain a 6-year capital improvement plan, CIP, to aid with capital needs of the annual budget. Related to the preparation of the CIP, RSA 674-7 requires municipal departments, school boards, library, water districts to submit statements of purpose capital expenditures to the planning board for the CIP purposes. The planning board defines capital expenditure as a purchase, construction, or improvement of land, buildings, infrastructure, or equipment having associated costs of $100,000 or more. An estimated useful life of 7 years. In Merrimack, we changed that just a little bit. We bring forward $100,000 or more to the planning board for improvements of land, construction, buildings, and infrastructure. Equipment is held here at the town council level. Planning board made a decision long ago that they did not want to see every dump truck, every fire truck for $100,000, while it's included in the plan. That's why we have our minor program, and those equipment purchases end up in our minor program. And the minor program depicts annual expenditures of anything over $10,000. I know this is very small, and when you're working with numbers on spreadsheets, you can always make them bigger on the computer. However, trying to get them into a presentation sometimes, it's very small. This presentation will be put on the finance website tomorrow, so anybody wants to look through the numbers. So what we do here with this is our capital reserve funding projects. In the town of Merrimack, we bond very little. We use capital reserve funds or deposits or savings accounts to save up for our purchases for everything that we basically do in town. Fire trucks, ambulances, drainage improvements, road paving, infrastructure, new sidewalks, everything is through capital reserve funds as much as possible. Very little runs through as a budget item. We have historic funding for our capital reserve funds. Last year, we deposited $2,487,250 into these capital reserve funds. So there's a variety of them. We save for ambulances, athletic fields, for communication equipment, computers, DW highway, fire equipment, highway equipment, all the way through solid waste disposal, road infrastructure capital reserves, GIS, traffic signal preemptions, milfoil, sewer improvements. This year, 24-25, we're projecting an increase to those capital reserve deposits to $2,835,000. Roughly $347,000 of increase, or about 14%. And that is due to the nature of looking at what we're planning on purchasing over the next 6 years and making sure that we do not have high spikes in the tax rate, because we're buying a fire truck at $1 million and we have to put $1 million into the budget for that. We tried to level off the funding.
Can you go
Back
Can you go back and say how much you said you were expecting for an increase for this year?
$347,700.
But you said 2 million.
I was at the no. What? Oops, sorry.
The total,
The total of 2 million to go in.
I had an increase of 2 million. I thought we were going to all die here. Sorry.
Trying to talk slowly.
Thank you.
So it's about a 14% increase.
What percent?
About a 14% increase
Thank
in
you.
capital reserve fund deposits.
I'm sorry, can you go back?
Yes.
But that's only when you add the sewer in, right?
Yes, it's 18% for general fund.
Because the sewer is a fund.
Yeah, but that is staying steady, right? So
Correct.
when you take the sewer out, then it's 18%
Yeah.
that we're increasing.
Yeah, we're in, yes. Yes.
And part of that, I'm sure, is because of the inflationary pressures we see going on right now.
And you'll see that very shortly when we go through some of the minor projects. What we were getting a 6-wheel dump truck for 2 years ago versus what we're getting them now for. They've gone up significantly. So yes, you're right, Counselor. It is almost an 18% increase.
That's right.
And remember, when we look at this, and I need to say it this way, this is a capital improvement plan. This is to help in the budget preparation. The way we do it, it's such a condensed period that I'm bringing this forward to you tonight. And in 8 weeks, I'm going to bring a budget. 6 weeks, I'm bringing a budget forward. I have talked to the new community development director. I'd like to back this out and actually start doing it what we used to do in the middle of summer, beginning of fall. This is a planning document right now. It's a planning document. Once I put the budget together, we had the meeting last week. I came up with the budget. Once we put the budget together, we might not be increasing capital reserves by 18%. We might be trying to hold steady as much as possible and really looking at some of the equipment that we bring forward tonight to say, can we get another year out of this? And those are the decisions that will have to be made once the departments get the budgets and input what they're looking for, and overall what we see as a potential increase to the budget. We have 26 items. I know this is very small, but this is our major capital improvement plan. There's 26 items here. I am only going to be talking about the first three columns, 24, 25, 25, 26, and 26, 27. To be perfectly honest with you, anything past 26, 27, they're in long-range planning. We want the council and the residents to be aware that we're looking at some of these projects. However, those numbers, by the time we get out there, could be go up or go down. But once again, this is a planning document to show what we're looking at doing. So bringing it back just to those 3 years. The first one is a public safety complex. And in explaining this slide, I give you the project, the number that it is on the original sheet, because there was 26. What the amount is, and then there's a backup page that explains what the project entails. So the first project that let's talk to is about a safety complex. The police and fire, central station and police station are due for an upgrade due to outgrowing the current facilities. The two departments have completed a space needs study, and there has been a rough sketch for a new safety complex. The fire station was originally constructed in 1960 as a 2-story fire station with 3 bays. This was expanded in 1996 for an additional 3 bays for a total of 6 bays. The police station was made up of 2 individual buildings with a common way between the 2 buildings. And the police department was relocated there in 1994. The first building was constructed in 1960. The second building was constructed in 1975. We have seen steady growth, as we know, between outlet malls, Nanacomp coming to town, Gilbert Crossings, and other apartments. This is the rough drawing of what the new safety complex is going to look like for the town of Merrimack. We're still working on laying out individual offices and areas. Fire roughly has 19,628 square feet of the building. Police will have 16,337 square feet of the building, and there'll be common area of about 7,300 square feet. And looking at this would be a $30 million bond for the town of Merrimack to include the purchase of land. I know that is a significant number. Costs are not going down. We have gone through major rewrites and edits to this building. It started off of doing the space study, about a 52,000 square foot building. We have reduced it to about 43,000 square feet right now. When you're building a building of this size, the last thing you want to do is move into it and outgrow it in the first day when you move in. So we have built some growth into the building. However, we didn't build a ton of growth into the building. With that being said, we might have added an extra 1 or 2 bedrooms for the fire department for their guys. We didn't add in, looking at this building is going to last. It isn't supposed to last. It will last 50 years. We didn't look at where the town would be in 50 years and say, okay, we need to add in, for instance, maybe 12 bedrooms, if that's where we're at. The fire chief, police chief, human resource director met with a consultant and an engineer, and we've really looked at reducing this. Like I said, it's going to be about $30 million for this facility. South Fire Station, was constructed in 1973 as a 2-bay garage for fire apparatus only. The station was expanded in 1987 to include living quarters. The current station does not have adequate facilities to support the male and female responders. They share a bathroom. There are 3 individual bedrooms down there. They used to be 2 bedrooms with one would be sharing bunks we broke that down into 3 individuals. We would have to do something with this South Fire Station as well. And it's about $930,000. With the South Fire Station, however, the $930,000 would be from a private grant. We have $650,000 from the outlet mall when they moved into town. And then the rest would come out of capital reserve funds for the South Fire Station. So about $930,000 for renovations in this year's budget for fire station renovation.
Paul, can that 650 be used on renovations?
Yes, fire.
Okay, I thought it was for a new fire station closer to the mall location.
That looking at it, we've talked to individuals, and they believe that the legal said that we can use it for that, upgrading that fire station for response times and getting trucks out.
Okay.
We also do have land on Continental Boulevard that the school has a warrant article years ago to give us about 3 or 4 acres of land on Continental Boulevard. That's still, if we wanted to build a completely new South Fire Station, we could. That'd be in the tune, I won't even give you a number because, you know, our neighboring community is doing a fire apparatus renovation, the whole 9 yards, and they're almost at $40 million for their project. Another community on the other side of the river, closer to Massachusetts, just has a police station for 30-something million dollars, $30 million that they're proposing. The prices for the safety complexes are high. Construction is high right now. Cost of materials is high right now. But I've been talking about a safety complex for at least 10 years now, that we were looking at a safety complex, and every year we push it out, we push it out, we push it out. Honestly, I think, is the timing right? No, but I can't push it out anymore without having to do major renovations, both at the police department and the fire station, in both of those areas. Right now, not to keep on going with this, but our fire department, we converted a conference room and we made 3 bedrooms out of that conference room because of the staffing with the SAFER grant. And we did it where we made the walls not go all the way up to the ceiling. So we didn't have to relocate the sprinklers or some of the lighting and things of that sort in those rooms. So if we're going to have these guys stay there, and ladies of the fire department stay there longer, because we're going to push this down the road, we're going to have to retrofit that to be the actual bedrooms and not a conference room and things of that sort. So there would be some definite renovations that we would need to have to do at that station. And the same with South Fire Station as well. Next one is the bridge alignment on US Route 3 over Babuzik Brook. That is the one over by Piningburgs and the MYA. And of course, if you have any questions, that's why I have Dawn here, and DPW and fire, and most of my department heads are here to help me out and bail me out if you guys have questions, because this is, they really understand what is needed and really are on ground zero with some of these projects. But this is a big project that we've been talking about. This is the bridge replacement over by MYA and Pinenbergs. The bridge is on the red list. We have had some federal money, about $5.2 million of federal money to help offset the cost of this bridge. This project is roughly about $14 million. This bridge project, to include the realignment of Wire Road to go along with it. And at the next meeting, we will be having a public hearing to talk about the realignment of that Wire Road. We got some more information from the state about the traffic signalization that we were talking about, as well as moving forward to getting the final approval from the council to say, yes, this is how we want to proceed. Stormwater drainage, we try to improve as much as possible. We have a new CRF grant for Babuzik area to start doing the engineering and design of that Pine Knoll Shores that we did a couple years ago that we got the grant for. Well, Dawn went back and got more money so that we can actually do the engineering to see if what the plan is will actually work with the engineering, to see how much that is going to cost us to construct. So I want to assure the people in the Pine Knoll Shores area that we're not constructing anything out there. We're just doing the engineering studies right now to see future, what it would look like and how much it's going to cost. And then we have some other ones, Gale Road, J Road, Amherst Road, Clay Street. There's a lot of drainage, stormwater drainage that we're looking at.
I thought Gale was completed.
We did do it, the Gale, we did do some of Gale Road, but I believe there's some other portions of Gale that we have to look at as well. We did that portion of Gale Road that we've talked about for years, but I think further up there's some drainage on it.
I thought we did deal with drainage issues, blockages, and so on. I thought up at the top of the hill as well as the curve. It's in my mind. I thought that was done.
We did do some. Dawn's here.
Hey, Don. Wake up, Don.
Actually, I saw Tom Mahan today, so he said, when you're in a situation, throw the shovel away, call for help.
Did Tom come down?
Yes, he did come down.
Oh, I wish I would have known.
Yeah. Yeah, he was here for Anita.
Okay.
So Dawn.
Made your presence worthwhile.
Yes, we did do work. We lined a pipe up there. We put some under drain in up there, but there are other issues that have come up and the water is coming up through the middle of the road. We also have a drainage problem coming down from J that's having a bad effect on that intersection.
So is work we've done has caused the repairs? we've done
No,
that caused
it was additional,
Okay.
additional drainage from the side hills that are coming out, and it's coming down and it's into the road, and we need to be able to address that. We did not go up that far when we were doing the work. My hope was that the one under drain that we did put in was enough to be able to, stop it, but it's not. My other fear was that since we lined that pipe, it had so many cracks in it that the water was actually going into that pipe. That's what I'm surmising at this point, but we need to do some other under drain or something in that intersection, and I have to wrap my head around it. It's got a lot of infrastructure in the ground on the other side, so it's difficult, and that's why I didn't do it the last time.
Okay. Well, thanks, Don.
And then our favorite subject, MS4. We got to start looking at some of the some costs associated with MS4 here at the town hall complex, because as Dawn has mentioned when she talked, I believe a couple times ago, about the sheet runoff from town hall. So we have to do some work here at town hall to help alleviate some of the sheet runoff from town hall to Babuzik Lake Road and to down further.
The what runoff?
The sheet runoff from the water because from the rain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And what does one do with the sheet runoff? Just collect it in storm drains or?
Go ahead, Don.
What we'll probably be doing is some type of infiltration chambers underneath the parking lots, wherever. We have not looked in depth at that, or I haven't wrapped my head around it or given a lot of thought at this point. But we do need to do something. A few years ago, I don't know if you remember Executive Park Drive, we narrowed that section up, something of that nature where we don't need all the parking, we don't need all the road width, things like that where we can cut down on the pavement in the impervious areas. We'd probably be looking at something like that where it's fairly simple fix at this point, be able to do something like that, but we do have to do a project before the end of the year. Next year.
This is the requirement for.
Yes.
Yes. This is one of our requirements from them this
It,
fall.
it's actually in their year, which is June 30th. So there are different options we can look at.
Can you go back one slide, please?
Yep.
Why is Merrimack District Court here? Why is Merrimack District Court listed here?
That's
Doesn't the
The-
county
the-
own
the-
us the money for that?
the town, that's the picture we had
Oh, okay.
available.
It's a town hall complex. That's part of the town hall complex. And yes, the county does pay us for maintenance of the parking lot and things of that sort. But, you know, it all starts from that end and
It's the sheet runoff.
the sheet runoff this way.
Thank you.
We're also going to start looking at potentially a crosswalk near Shaw's North. And we're looking at doing some just some preliminary engineering. This is one of those new projects for the town. We have a sidewalk running on the westerly side of DW Highway, and there are some other businesses on the easterly side, and there's a couple of neighborhood roads. So we're looking at potentially putting in a crosswalk to get pedestrians across the street without having to run and take their life in their hand as people are moving up and down the road at DW. But this is a new project in the CIP. Woodland Drive, we're starting the next phase of Woodland Drive improvements. As you know, that we've done timber and Fernwood. Those were completed this year. We have just used $375,000 in the budget to do those roads in that area. So the next phase, we'd be looking at like Hartwood and Forest to look at additional drainage and road improvements in that area. But that was, the residents came forward at the time and put a bond in for $3 million. And we said that we had this project broken out over a number of years, so we can engineer it and see where the water's going to run off and things of that sort. So we have been working on it, and the first phase has been completed. Have they paved? They paved it today.
They did final paving. They have to do some adjustments to the driveways, which they're supposed to come in next week.
So, but for the most part, that project, as the first phase has been completed. Our paving program, because of the influx of registrations, we've increased some of the registration fee that we get, $5 per registration. So we increased that from $135,000 to $140,000, and we're trying to keep about $1.5 million roughly in the paving budget with a small increase each year. As you can see, we're trying to pave roads. We're trying to do the infusion on roads that are heavily traveled, and we try to on other roads that we go around town. You'll see more and more some crack sealing. This year they crack sealed like Lawrence Road. They went out and crack sealed Lawrence Road to hopefully help us prolong the pavement in those areas. If we can get the water, the thaw-free cycles out of penetrating the pavement, we are hoping to increase the pavement life. I learned. The next one is we're looking at the pedestrian bridge over the Souhegan River. That was a free bridge that we got out of Portsmouth. As Kyle Fox, when he was here, he told you that the bridge has failed. We are looking to do some preliminary design work on that bridge so we can get into the bridge aid program out in the future to see if because that's one of our connectors of our trail systems. So
We did get it into the 10-year program,
Oh,
so
we
it's
did.
out looking at 2032. I have been talking to the state most recently, and I'm going to try to write a pleading letter for them to move that up in their schedule, because we're having issues with people breaking down all the barriers we've put out there, and they're still crossing, and it's becoming a safety issue. So I will be writing a letter. I just talked to DOT last week, I'll write a letter and see if we can get ourselves moved up in that time frame.
And once again, this is, a lot of communities don't get funding through their budget or ballots. And because we do a substantial amount of work on these bridges up front with a design and engineer, and we have the plans ready to go, when those communities don't have the project or get the funding for those projects, they turn to us and say, hey, Merrimack, you ready? And we'll say, yeah, here we go. We're ready to move our bridge forward. And it helps us get our bridges done in a more timely manner sometimes, because some of these other communities aren't saving up for, you know, a $7 million bridge that they got to pay 20% of those costs, and they're not there with it. Chamberlain Bridge over the Souhegan River. That bridge is of historic nature. It's a bridge that has straight and curve. A curve on the inside and a straight wall on the other side. It's historic in nature. We're looking at basically doing some rehab work with the Souhegan River Trail, but there are some other issues with the bridge that we need to look into and try to fix. And we're trying to get some engineering on that bridge as well. The sides, the granite sides, are not official barriers, meaning they're not high enough. The car, it's not like a guardrail where it's supposed to push you back. If you hit one of those, you might go over it. So there are some things that we got to look at when we're looking at repairing the Chamberlain Bridge and increasing it. So that's why it's in the capital reserve plan for the years. And just
We got it into the 10-year plan also, so that's out at 2032 also.
right. But
Do we
we're
have
trying
to
do
put a
some design
bridge,
work.
by the fire station, do we have to put a wall so cars don't go down the river?
Well, you know, I've seen 3 cars launch in there, and the
That's my
last one was
point.
the furthest launch pod yet. So
That's my point.
yeah, but no, yeah. The thing is they asked when we started this to get this into the program. They asked me, and I said, no, we're keeping it in the look of historic in nature as much as possible. We wanted to put kind of like lantern lights, and there was talk from the Heritage Commission, put some lantern kind of lights, bring it back to like the old days. And they said, if you touch any one of those side rails, you have to get them up to code. And so when I was talking to them, I said, I want to keep the look of the curved and the straight and as historic as nature. So there's going to be some more, I won't say hurdles to jump, but I'm sure the State Historic Society will be down and giving us demands that we have to meet and things of that sort, as well as the state. So the one thing we're trying to do this year, and it's in there because I wanted to bring this forward again, is that through the budget, we're looking at putting a canopy and replacing these gas station pumps that are here in town and the town hall property. This is the $1.4 million project.
Didn't we already do the tanks?
I'm bringing it forward. That's in this year. I just want to explain why we're doing it. It's because the tanks are nearing their useful life. Well,
You mean the canopy?
the canopy.
Okay,
The
gotcha.
canopy. The tanks are nearing their useful end of their useful life. The canopy, when you go in there, if it's raining or snowing, the rain and snow is going onto the tanks and onto our infrastructure, our mechanics, our electronics. So with the canopy, we're hoping that will prolong some of those things. We've been having some problems, especially this summer with a lot of the rain. It's been affecting some of the electronic in there. And the other thing is that the wiring from the tanks back to the building needs to be upgraded as well. So I just wanted to leave it in there because this is $1.4 million that's coming out of fund balance to do this project. That's why it's in there.
Okay, before you move on. So we already have replaced the fuel tanks.
The pumps are replaced. We're
All right.
working on getting the fuel tanks
Just
replaced.
the pumps we did.
Just the pumps we did with the highway garage. We're looking at upgrading this whole system. And Lori, who is the highway operations, and Dawn will start this fall looking at it for a spring construction.
Okay, my memory then, because I was
It's in the
thinking-
budget for this year.
but I thought we had some extra money somewhere. Do you remember? Is it, are you thinking that?
No, I just, because he's got it in for this year, we've already talked about doing this and it just hasn't been done yet.
So it's, okay.
I just wanted to bring it forward because
So
it's
it's
a big
my
price.
memory.
It's $1,400,000. So I wanted to bring this forward
it's
to
me.
say,
Yeah, last
it's-
budget season, we debated on whether this was gonna be in or out, and we decided to use additional fund balance and keep this in.
Correct.
Okay.
Well served. Well said.
I remember.
Because I remember the discussion, but yeah.
Yeah.
It was confusing me.
But like I said, I just wanted to keep it here. I know we're doing it this year, but I wanted to bring it
understand.
forward.
Okay.
And that concludes the general fund portion of the next 2 years. Now we're looking at wastewater treatment projects, and basically, as they progress with the Daniel Webster Highway, not Daniel Webster Highway, sorry, Effie Everett Turnpike, we have some crossings underneath the Effie Everett Turnpike that we have to upgrade. One of them is the Effie Everett Turnpike, our big connector down by the Executive Park. One of our connectors goes through. And while they're redoing their design of that, are they going to, they have a culvert over in that area. Or if they abandon that culvert, we don't really have to relocate our sewer pipe. We'll just have to put a sleeve over it. If they don't abandon that culvert, then we have to relocate our sewer pipe, and that's why the $500,000 is an estimated cost for that relocation of that main sewer pipe that comes from the Executive Park area across the turnpike. Another one
But
is,
Paul, what does it mean to abandon the culvert? But you mean decide to dig it out, throw it away?
basically when they abandon a culvert, it's a drainage culvert for them to come across. They would abandon that one and move the drainage culvert. There's talk to move the drainage culvert northerly and put a new drainage culvert underneath DW Highway. When they abandon a culvert, because it's a cement structure, they have to infill it with dirt, rock, gravels. That's when if they abandon that culvert, and then they'll move it northerly and put a new culvert in for the water to come across.
You said DW, meant FE.
If you have a turnpike that runs down through DW where we had the emergency
But this,
repair.
this
This is just for if you have a turnpike. Sorry.
So I've reached out to Pierce, Wright Pierce, to do some more investigation in this question. When they fill the culvert in, because they are going to abandon, we did find that out the other day.
Okay.
They're gonna move the culvert up further and realign the brook again, the way it used to be, from what I understand. That's going to leave this sewer pipe in a position where we can't get to it. There'll be no way we can get to that pipe physically, because it'll be down a real steep embankment. So we want to take a look at our different options. You know, maybe it is leave it alone, but we don't know that. So I have just had discussions with Wright Pierce to be able to start a study to be able to look at that and to figure out what we should do.
Okay,
So yes.
thank you.
So that's the relocation of that. Hydro feed system upgrade. This is the Coronation Building. To be quite honest with you, I know we're doing
hypo.
hypo.
It's the chlorine.
Oh,
right?
Chlorine building,
hypochlorite.
yes.
Okay.
That's why I have Leo in the back. If you have any
Called a
questions.
hydro. So it was a little different. That's
Hypo. Sorry, hypo. I got Leo in the back because
He's coming.
he understands this stuff. That's why I pay him the big bucks. So,
You better understand it.
but this is
He knows
part.
more than we do, for sure.
Yeah,
That's for sure.
and this is an upgrade. Yes, during the bond that we just are working in process of completing for the 32 million. This would be an additional expense of $250,000 as a placeholder in case we need it.
In case we.
Need it.
How much, you don't have anything on this
Yeah,
page.
don't worry about it.
Pardon?
No, I'm looking at this.
Oh.
Yeah, it's $250,000. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Those, just background, those tanks were probably installed approximately 2000 or so. 19, we used to use gas chlorination, which is extremely dangerous. It was done before I got there. And those tanks will fail over time. Fortunately, they're in the building, which keeps them out of the sunlight, which will, cause the tanks to degrade a little bit faster, or a lot faster, actually. The good thing about it is they don't fail catastrophically. Typically, they'll get spider cracks and they begin to weep. We've had the tank inspected a couple of times over the last few years, so hopefully we'll get a few more years out of them.
So it's really a placeholder of 250,000. Pennachuck Square Pump Station, life expectancy of the pump station is 20, 30 years. The station was built in 1972. It's now 50 years old. It's an expensive fix. $1.5 million, but looking at doing that in the 25, 26, try to start doing some preliminary engineering on it. But we have to keep our pump stations up to date. We knew this would be the next phase from the bond to start doing some of these. And as you heard, this was on that discussion we had last week with the rate setting. This was taken into account. So it's already taken into account with the fund with the sewer fund to be able to do this project. Birch Street Pump Station, the same thing. This station's 44 years old. And the cost is less because it's a smaller pump station than Pennachuck. Telemetry upgrade. This basically is, for layman's terms, this is how all our pump stations communicate with its main house. So there's the telemetry. They take the data, they bring it back to the wastewater treatment plant. And if something isn't working right, alarms go off, Leo gets called, has to come in and fix it. Well, used to. Now he has people for that.
Correct, because we, as you know, we're not staffed 16 hours of the 24 in the day. So that infrastructure is critical. And we're using cellular now as opposed to radio, like police and fire use for their mobile communications. It's safer from a cybersecurity standpoint, but it is computer-based type equipment. So every 5 to 7 years, they'll have to be looked at and potentially upgraded to keep it up to date with the latest technology.
I'm going to go through the other major projects that are in those out years pretty quick. I'm just going to hit the new ones. We talked about the MS4 permit. That was new. There's going to be some expenses in the out years. The crosswalk at DW Highway and Shaw's construction, we're estimating 26, 27. Natticook Road Triangle drainage improvements. We have that as a placeholder in 29 and 30. And those are the new ones that are here. We do have sewer line extension at McQuestion Road and Mayflower. We talked about that. That bond. We have to look at that and actually see how that fits in with everything. And then, of course, the library still has the placeholder for their new library. They're here if you have any questions, but they are working diligently with an architect to get plans ready. And they are waiting patiently for the safety complex. So once the safety complex gets approved and starts being constructed, you'll start seeing that new library probably move closer to coming up. But they've been patient with that, as well as holding off on trying to push a new library when they know one of the needs of the town is a safety complex. So they've been good stewards for that. And then the last one is athletic fields. This town we've been talking about this for a long time, and there's a shortage of athletic fields. And we're looking at probably in the 26, 27 year of trying to implement a new athletic field or building a new athletic field. And I have $810,000 right now. That is just estimated cost. As we get closer, we'll definitely put more pen to paper and try to come up with a good number for that. Here's the funding breakout.
Paul,
Sorry.
Regarding the athletic fields,
Yes.
have you found an empty plot to put it on?
We have a spot that was given to the town on Pearson Road. We are in the process, and Dawn and Matt can talk a little bit more about this. It wasn't as many athletic fields as we would hope because of some of the wetlands. We know we can get one field in there. I just don't know about the second field or what kind of second field it would be. I don't think there would be a multi-use field for a second field. It might be a smaller ball field. But yeah, we do have some property up on Pearson Road that we do have. And there's some other properties in town that we can look at for athletic fields.
Some locations are very costly. And,
Correct.
but there are two that I can think of immediately that are easy.
There's one up on Babuzik Lake Road where the school owns.
Yes.
We can talk to the school about that if they're,
Yeah, but I thought that would be a more difficult site.
that once again, they thought they could get 7, 8, 9 fields in there because of the wetlands and parking and all that. That's more like a 2 or 3 field subdivision. So there are some areas, but right now this 810 kind of looks like that's what we're looking at for Pearson Road to get those fields up and running at Pearson Road. But once again, those are just rough estimates. We haven't gone out there and done surveying sites and wetlands and all that other stuff. Okay. So the funding breaks out of, this is just a breakout of funding, user fees, things, federal aid, state grants, the private donations, and, this is how the funding breaks out over a period of time. And of course, the other thing is that you'll see $15 million in 29 and 30. That is a placeholder for the wastewater for phase 6 and 7 of upgrades. What that is out there for is that in 2005, we did a major upgrade, about $5 million upgrade in 2005, 2006. So that upgrade's coming due to see if we have to do it. So really, we just want to put it as a placeholder for potential that there might be some expenses in 29, 30 past that for phases 6 and 7 of the wastewater treatment plant. In these plants, I know we just did $32 million, but there's so many pieces, and if we had to build this plant today, it would be over $75-80 million. I think Portsmouth did an upgrade of their plant, and it was over $70 million. So
that 15 million is
a placeholder for potentially
And that-
upgrades.
and that's
6
beyond our rate. The inclusion in our rates is beyond that.
That's beyond that, and we'd have to look at that. And at that time, some of the other things, SRF grants might be falling off and things of that sort. So that's why. But we did, as stewards of the wastewater treatment plant, Leo felt that it was important to put that number in there as a placeholder, so that it's not a surprise, like what happened a few years ago, where all of a sudden all this money started showing up from $10 million up to $33 million for the upgrade at the wastewater treatment plant.
Thanks.
Like to go over the minor program.
So, Paul, before you jump
Yep.
back on your major projects funding sources,
Yep.
you're doing $1 million increase between current year and next year from the budget directly, and another almost $1 million from capital reserve funds. Is that all for the public
Safety complex?
safety complex?
Yes. Yes.
And it's not going to come out of the bond or something like that? Why, I mean,
It's a $30 million facility. We're looking at about a $25 million bond. We have some capital reserve funds that we have set aside for that. Also, right now I'm projecting some use of fund balance to help offset some of the costs associated with it.
and that's the money that's coming from the budget?
The budget, right.
Is that how
Yeah.
you would
Yeah, that's how I would have to, it'd have to be run through the budget, but we're using fund balance to offset that. So that's why the increase of the $1 million would be for increasing from the 1.4 to the 2.4 that I have projected to use for that project.
Okay.
Thank you.
You maybe touched on it because my mind was wandering over on something else here within the CIP, but the private donation, did you speak to that?
Yes, the private donation item and other, there's a fund that talks about fire protection.
Harris.
Shed Harris,
Okay.
yes. Fund that's out over in,
Yeah, I was shocked when I found out, yeah.
it's got some money also, that's also the sale. It's a sale, if we sell buildings.
We sell
Oh,
buildings.
that's included in that number?
That would be included in that too.
So what is
But
Shed Harris?
Shed Harris is around 1.2 million.
When it grew, it was much smaller, but it's grown.
It's grown, yes. But that's where that would come because the fire station now being put in the north end of town in the
Yeah.
Reed's Ferry District. The Reed's Ferry District starts basically at the bridge and goes all the way to the town line in Bedford. So that's the original Reed's Ferry District of the town.
Okay.
We good to move on to the minor projects?
Absolutely, sorry.
All right. Once again, like I said, if we do not get the safety complex, we're gonna have to do things. One of them is the police department HVAC, 25, 26. The brick veneer at the police station is falling off of the westerly wing. It's starting to fall off. If we're not doing a new safety complex, we're gonna have to try to fix that, as well. Communications, they have some upgrades in access monitoring, facility monitoring. GIS, we have, some of our newer programs rely on the GIS and, system, our GIS system. Right now, our GIS system is housed at a third party. That $60,000 is to look at some of the upgrades that would be needed to potentially bring that GIS system in-house. And we're looking at there, we got to get some more numbers on that from Jonathan and IT to see if we can bring that in. And that $60,000 is just an estimate right now. We might still keep it at the third party, but we're going to have to put some money into the GIS system. So some of our newer systems, like the new building and health software that we just purchased, relies on GIS. Some of our other systems also rely on GIS.
So if we bring it in-house, we're going to affect a savings that will pay for that? I mean, is that a couple of year payout or payoff or?
That's what we have to look at right now. This was brought to me in the 11th and a half hour saying, hey, we might
Hey,
have to
throw
do
this in
this.
there.
I said, give me some more
Slip it
data.
by.
But when I'm coming to the council on November 2nd with it, I have to bring forward the numbers that I have right now. But once again, we need to sharpen our pencil a little bit more. By the time we get the budget through, because that's in next year's budget, we'll definitely have a better number for it. Cardiac defibrillator monitor and transmitters. Those are replacements of the ones that we have right now. We're replacing 3 of them. And they're very expensive, and the fire chief is here
Almost
to
get an ambulance for that.
talk about them. The cost of ambulances is going through the roof because
Yeah.
they can't build them. They can't get
build 'em.
they can't get the chassis out of Ford are backloaded. The boxes, they're having trouble getting the supplies for the boxes that go on the back of the ambulances. So the prices are increasingly steadily like everything else because of the supply chain. Like I said, the chief is here to talk about the cardiac defibrillators. If he wants to come up and just give you a quick overview on that.
What's the status on the fire trucks?
He can give you a quick overview on that too. The ladder truck we're looking at May of 2024. They had their meeting, their pre-design meeting, and we're just waiting for it to get in the Pierce construction queue. It's in the queue. Now it's in their construction queue. And then our other the other fire truck that we bought is still 1.5 to 2 years out. because they're that far backlogged. And it's not just Pierce, it's every one of them. And we were fortunate enough with Pierce, is the new contracts that came out with Pierce, they're making people sign part of their contract an escalation clause of 30 to 35% escalation clause.
Why
And in our
is there such
contract,
a
there was none.
backlash? I mean, what?
Yeah, there's a lot of reasons. A lot of reasons. So the ladder truck, like the town manager described, that's still due to arrive May of 2024. So that has not changed. The engine is due to arrive, I believe, August of 25. Now remember, we got in line early because that truck was supposed to be replaced in 2 years, but it was going to take us 3 years to get it. Now, some of the issues as for the backlogs are a lot of departments were told by sales reps that cost increases were coming. So a lot of communities got their orders in. So that overloaded the system. The next wave of issues is the engines or motors that run these things. The new emissions standards are coming out in another year or two. So a lot of, again, communities wanted to get their orders in because we're being told that's almost $100,000 increase to the cost of the truck for the emission standards to meet the federal standard that we're going to have to try to get to. When that came out, a lot of the manufacturers, and I think we spoke on this before, a lot of the manufacturers for motors and engines have decided they don't want anything to do with over the road. So Caterpillar and Detroit and all those other big names are out. They will not make an over-the-road motor. They don't want anything to do with the California emission standards, so they're out. So now that leaves one person in the bank to make engines. The other one is a PACCAR motor, but that's also owned by Cummins. So there's really only one manufacturer to make motors for over-the-road. So when you only have one, they can only make so many. So everything has backed up tremendously. And then I'm sure you saw in the news with the auto workers going on strike.
Right.
That did not help production for any of the chassis that we need for police cars, for ambulances, for pickup trucks, for any of those things that we need to use. All of that got delayed some more. So it's the perfect storm. I don't have any other explanation other than we just have to work through it, understand that we're in the queue. And like the town manager said, Pierce has been very good at locking in our price. I also can say the same thing about AEV for the ambulances. We ordered one in May of 22 and we ordered one in May of 23. We locked in the price, so we're not gonna have to pay any more than what we've locked in the price at. So
Now it's just waiting.
we just have to wait. Right. Exactly.
But so is everyone else.
So is everybody else, yeah. So I looked around with different fire truck manufacturers because while the big names are who the big players are in the marketplace, there are also smaller manufacturers that build these things as well, and they're all in the same category. It's about a 2-year wait for a fire truck. And then with the ambulances, it's still a 2-year wait for everybody else as well. Some have been grouped into one sales group, and then there's some other independents, and they're all the same. So it doesn't matter who you decide to go with. They're all the same. They're all the same weight. So that's where we're at with vehicles. For the cardiac monitors, those are the pieces of equipment that the paramedics and advanced EMTs use to check your heart rate and see what's going on electrically within your body systems. And if you're having a cardiac dysrhythmia, they have the ability to use electricity to put your heart back in the right rhythm. So unfortunately, yep, those are expensive. We also have AEDs, which are those portable AED defibrillators that are available for the public to use at any point in time. We have all of those on all of our apparatus. So those pieces of equipment that don't have the full cardiac monitor at least have an AED. So if we come across someone in cardiac arrest, we have equipment that we can use to shock the heart if we need to do that. So it's an expense. I understand.
But don't
we're
we have
getting
those
about-
now?
I'm sorry?
Don't we have those now?
We do have those now, but they're reaching their end of life cycle. They're almost 10 or 12 years old.
But do they still work?
They still work and operate. But again, as you know, in the medical field, at some point, the manufacturers don't want to own up to the pieces of equipment anymore. It's reached the end of their life cycle. They will not make parts for them anymore. And at some point, they will not service the equipment anymore because they don't want to upkeep that particular model of equipment.
They want to sell you a new one, of course.
It's like everybody else in the world. So if we get 10 to 12 years out of a monitor, we're doing pretty well. That's about the average lifespan.
And remember, they're computerized. So
Well, the
they're
transmission,
computerized.
yeah.
The transmitter is computerized, and like everything else we've seen with IT, is 5 to 7 years, they want to end of life.
But is 312 one monitor? Is 312 one monitor or multiple or?
No, that's for multiple. So that would be like for 3 or 4 different cardiac monitors, and I believe 5 or 6 AEDs. So that replaces all of the equipment that we currently have, which is, older equipment. So we would be fully
The
brought up to
ambulances.
today's standards. Or when we do that in 24, 25, that would be brought up.
So we don't have an annual replacement cycle? that-
No, I'm trying to
avoid-
work with the town manager that when we buy an ambulance, we should buy everything new for the ambulance. So, because why should we be putting on old equipment? The truck is hopefully going to last us about 12 years. So if we get on that cycle of buying a new ambulance with all new equipment, it comes all ready to go. That would be the cycle, so that every 3 years you're purchasing a new vehicle, but new equipment at the same time. Not chunking it out like we're doing now, but it's going to take us some time to get that to line up the way that we would like it to line up.
But you're talking about replacing all of the cardiac equipment at one time here?
Right now, for now, right, until we can get into that cycle, as we just discussed, I can't get ambulances. So I'm using ambulances that should already be replaced, and, they are failing more consistently now than they were before, because they're old, and we're still using them. So we're doing our best to string them along and make them last, but, we're just, trying to work through the frustration.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions before we move on from fire?
Thanks, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. And highway, we talked a little bit about it, but, when I started here, we used to get a dump body plows for $75,000 total. And now we're looking at $210,000 for a 6-wheel dump truck outfitted out with plows and body. So the cost has gone up there. There's the bucket truck. We replaced the lift in 2022. We big borrow and steal parts when we do trucks like that because we did replace the lift in 22. We might bring that forward, or the lift to the new truck. But however, the box and the truck itself is getting a little long in the tooth, so we need to replace that at $200,000-$300,000.
So based on what we just heard from Chief regarding the backlog of engines and ambulances, won't you be having the same problem with the dump trucks?
Yes, we potentially might have it. However, we have our trucks, and that's why we're trying to buy them. When we went to the highway garage, we extended the useful life, I think, from 10 years to some of these are 12 years old. We're trying to get between that 12 and 15. So that's when we're looking at these trucks to see when we can buy what we need. And so we're looking at that. Those will be coming forward if the budget passes. I'm sure that Don and Lori and everybody will be in here as soon as July 1st hits, so they can go get their purchase orders out there and beat the rush for some of these pieces of equipment. Patrol vehicles in the police department, $135,000 for patrol vehicles. I'm sorry, that's line 80. Skipped one, line 69. Wasserman Beach Phase 4, about $100,000. The reason why this project got moved forward is because we have a shoreline permit down at Wasserman Park, Nanticoke, for the next couple of years. What this phase is, if you're looking at what we did with the beach, it's where the kayak racks are. Over there, we're looking at extending the beach to there for handicap access, because that's the easiest part of the beach. It's flatter off to the left side of it for handicapped access into that portion of the lake. So the lake then will become handicapped accessible. The problem is that we don't want to spend all the money that we had to spend when we got all those shoreline permits back a couple of years ago when we did the big project. This project is just removing some tree roots, sand, things of that sort. It's no dredging in the lake at all. We won't have to dredge. It's just making it handicapped accessible. And we're estimating about $100,000 for that.
No docks or wharfs or anything like that stuck out there to?
Matt? I told you, that's why they're there. Because I knew these questions would come up.
Don't you know these already? Yeah, as Paul said, this is basically tackling the left side of the beach, the left side of that big pine tree that's in the middle of the beach. Essentially, it's the same setup and back with the kind of the perch tiered beach structure like we have over on the right, except that as Paul said, on coming in from the left hand side where the existing kayak racks are, we'd be building in the accessibility piece. Because obviously over on the right hand side it's stairs, and there's no way if you're with those stairs to get down there for accessibility.
So no docks though.
So no docks, no.
No docks.
We did our docks already, so we're good
Yeah.
there.
Right. Okay.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you, Matt.
Before you
Hold on,
leave,
don't
Matt.
leave, Matt.
Sorry. So kind of an aside question, because I don't see this particular thing here. You know, the reason we had all that beach erosion, et cetera, was the water was washing down from the top, putting the perch beach, da, 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 da. We had a very rainy summer. How did the erosion, did it hold?
It actually did help, yeah.
I figured this would be like the grand test of whether that's design worked or not.
Yes,
So,
yes, it did.
okay, good. So no wash from up above coming down.
Nope. Nice.
Thank you.
Quick run.
Run while you can.
Yeah, quick.
Run quick. Solid waste, looking at having to buy a loader for the transfer station. With escalation, we're figuring a motor, we're figuring about $300,000 for the loader. Of course, if it's less, we're not gonna go out there and buy one for $300,000. A Volvo loader is $250,000. We're gonna go and buy that loader if it suits our needs.
On patrol vehicles, if I can back up just a fraction. It might be sacrilege to even bring it up, but some vehicles last longer than others. It's been proven, different makes. And so I know we get the state bid, and whatever they're doing at that time is what we end up getting. Might we look into that to some depth to see if
Actually,
the greater cost might be offset by the longer life?
we're actually looking at other vehicles than Ford for police. They did a test on a Dodge vehicle, I believe, and not the Charger, a Dodge vehicle. And I believe the patrol officers liked it. It was a little more roomy for them because you got the computer, you got all the center console and stuff. They're looking at several different vehicles and to go away from the Ford. What's happening with the Ford vehicles around when I was in finance a couple of years ago, what I was seeing is a lot of transmissions starting to fail around 80 to 90,000 miles.
Acceptable.
And they were failing. So we're looking at other options.
All right. No,
But
I'd
with
be
the other
interested in that
options
because-
also is additional cost.
Right, but if I can get an extra year out of a vehicle,
Right.
it might offset the thing. So,
Correct.
yeah. All right.
Correct.
Thanks, Paul.
Yep.
Michael, it's getting to 80.
And
you
then, IT, Jonathan Diaz has been a godsend. But every time I turn around and talk to him, I don't like going down to talk to him because
Spend money.
it's cost me money. However, we went so long without, and I hate to say it this way, but a bubblegum and shoestring budget for RIT. And the vulnerabilities that RIT had, that Jonathan's coming in and fixing some of this stuff. Our file storage, for instance, was antiquated. It was something you would see in a home network and not a professional building. And when you're dealing with one of
We
things
appreciated it at that time.
at the time, and I tell Jonathan, Rome isn't built in a day. Please give me a schedule.
He's not here tonight?
No, he's not here tonight. But Rome isn't here and built in a day. Please give me a schedule, and we've been working on a build out. One of the build outs is, as you'll see in there, line 92 is a network infrastructure refresh for $75,000. We looked at going to 360, Microsoft 360, and it's actually cheaper for us to upgrade our Exchange server for one more term.
For what?
For one more term, one more time, due to the fact that it's a one-time cost and we can get about 5 to 6 years out of it versus $54,000 a year to be on 360. So we're looking at that. And the other thing, we were leaning towards going to 360, but when the federal government got hacked,
We don't have a chance.
and I'm like, that's supposed to be secure. So we talked about it a little more and we said, let's just wait, go and do our Microsoft upgrade and see the vulnerabilities of 360 as it goes forward. So, but those are the decisions we have to make. The big thing that the last thing I want to bring is line 96, new voting machines. And we're estimating that to be a cost about $80,000 for new voting machines. That'd be for every precinct. That we'd have to get new voting machines. And the
Was that a
state,
plan thing? I mean, have we been?
that's not a plan thing. That's not planned. This is something, voting machines are regulated by the state of New Hampshire. They tell us what voting machines we can use, what tabulation machines we can use. Excuse me. And they are starting, I saw read in the paper today that Derry's one of the first ones in the state to go away from the current voting machines we have. And they're doing an upgrade for this March election that's coming in March of 2024. They're doing an upgrade with the voting machines and the bid tabulation machines.
It's going to be paper backup like we have currently.
I have, you know what?
It's not digital.
I have that. Hold on.
Yeah. National.
So the state, Secretary of State office anticipates that legislation and the ballot law commission will approve a few different vendors for municipalities to use the upcoming years. There's an expectation that the municipalities will be given some time to secure funding to replace the machines prior to the current machines becoming unauthorized. Municipalities do not use machines to hand count municipalities that do not use machines hand count ballots. Hand counting is not something that would be practical here in Merrimack.
I agree with
that.
Paper backup, but I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, the Optech machines, I think is what they're called.
Yeah, so I don't know which one they're gonna go with.
But it's
They're just estimating between $6,500 and $9,000 for the machines. About $81,000, $80,000 is what we're estimating for it right now.
Can the state reps find out about that?
Can,
Barbara?
how long, it says there that they're going to give us time to come up with the funding. Since this is an unfunded mandate, which is illegal in the state constitution, how much money and how much time are they going to give us to do this?
I don't have an answer to that.
It's a wonderful point.
It all depends on when the
should
Secretary,
call some state
when the
reps saying,
Secretary of State says these are the new, your machine is no longer authorized. You can't use that machine anymore. That's what it's gonna be. We don't know. They don't know. We just put the money in there. It could be, because this goes to 2025, June of 25, they could come out and say, January 1st of 2025, we're going with new machines.
Well, let's see what Derry has for an experience with their new machines.
We're not looking to buy them right away. But
Right.
we gotta have them appropriated just in case. If we're gonna run them through the budget, we need to have it appropriated just in case.
We'll have to pay attention to Derry.
But we'll have to do that. And it's been my understanding the last couple of years, the funding from them is zero.
I'm sure.
It's all put back on the taxpayers.
All right.
Paul, do you by chance have a status on the office trailer? For this solid-
Actually, Dawn is here and she can talk about that.
What was your question?
Office
The
trailer.
office trailer for the solid waste?
Actually, Dawn and I talked about that last week. She's starting to talk to Chris about options with it, but Dawn's here to give you more information. Chris Peralta is the foreman that's down in solid waste for those at home.
So we have one estimate that Chris had gotten. I wanted to get another estimate, so we went out to a different company. I'm waiting for a call back from them, so
How much
we
was the
are
first?
starting the process.
What was the first estimate? If you know, if you know.
76 and change.
That's something that we're talking with the guys. To be honest with you, that's an option. That's not a need. It's more of a want for them because there are bathrooms in both facilities up there that they actually say, when I was talking to them about it, they like getting up out of their chair and walking to go to the restroom. And if it's really bad and raining, they'll just walk around and use the porta potty right there real quick. That's something that we have to look at with these, but talking to the guys and saying, what do you want in there and what do you need in there? And that was more of a, if we can get one for that, yeah, but it's not a game breaker for us. And both the gentlemen that sit in the trailer right now have said that.
They need this, they prefer the space, not the.
That's
So that's actually what we were looking at. I've looked at different options. I got the original plans. The leach fields that we would need to tie into, because you can't just have a bathroom in the trailer. You've got to then be able to put a septic tank, run a line, and be able to put it somewhere. I could tie it into the existing system that's up there, but it's going to take state approvals. It's going to take, a lot more. I don't have that funding with the 95 that we have. I was also looking at possibly splitting the trailers, doing two, doing an office one with a break room, and then also just doing one for the scales, maybe like a garden shed type thing, but insulated and, a little bit upscale of that type of thing, but of that size. But again, I've got to create another area, more pavement, concrete to be able to put it on. That's more money. So first I'm getting the quotes on the units themselves. I would like to have a separate office space for Chris to be in, one for the scale people, and then in the middle, have a lunchroom, break room where the guys can come in out of the cold or hot and to be able to, have their lunch or whatever it is they need. So that's what we were looking at right now, and foregoing the facility within it. It's just, it would add more costs and it was gonna, would have to put it off. I couldn't tie it in this year. We could have it and then tie it in the future, but we're probably looking at, $15,000 to $20,000 more just to be able to do that.
And the other thing too that we talked about is if we're gonna lift and replace, so to speak, in the same spot, we need some protection. Because why this trailer rotted was because of the splash over from the salts on the scale. Because we have to keep the scale operating and free of ice. So some of the salts got splashed over in there. So we'd have to build some kind of device, wall, whatever, to keep it, or move it that much further away so that splash over doesn't occur. So there are a bunch of things that Don needs to look at. So just hearing $76,000 is not, oh wow, we saved $20,000. No, there's other construction that has to go along, especially if we move it away from the scale. There's realignment of pavement and things of that sort. So, but to answer your question, Councilman Hunter, we are in the process of looking at that to get that up and running as well.
Thanks.
The guys would really like that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Thanks for the question.
Anything else before I move to self-supporting funds or sewer and media? Okay, so in the sewer fund, we have two Bobcat skid steers. This to me is another item. When you look at it, you're saying $70,000. Oh my God. That could be actually in the low side for a skid steer. I had an individual friend of mine reach out, and he owns his own company, and what he's paying for skid steers right now is north of $85,000 just for a skid steer. The prices, and 3 years ago, skid steers were going for about $25,000. So after COVID, they jacked up to 70. We're looking at a utility vehicle, a F-250 four-wheel drive vehicle with a plow and a spreader, do some paving. We have estimated $100,000. I don't think it's going to be that. However, at the time, we didn't know how long Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, Dodge was going to be on strike. And trust me, now that they settled their union grievance, unions are there, some of those costs are going to come on to us. So hopefully we're looking a lot less than $100,000, but just to play it safe, that's what we put in there for that. And then we have a Genie lift for 55 feet and a Sizzle lift for 26 feet. Those are in year 2. Those are the lifts to help the gentlemen at wastewater actually not have to climb ladders and be more safe when they're looking at some of the equipment and doing some maintenance on some of the new equipment that we put in. And then the last thing is we are on that change out of the compost blowers. So we'd be in year, I believe, 3 of 5 with that. And then here for media, they're looking at some software. I know I just want to touch on this low power FM of $30,000. We got the agreement with Londonderry. We're going to go ahead and get their equipment and stuff. That is just there as a placeholder in case we need something to make it operate throughout the whole town. We're going to bring the equipment in. We're going to try the tower that's outside, see what our range is, and if we have to increase the range, that's what he's looking at for putting another antenna out. And we do have another site in case we need to move the antenna along.
I'd like to see how that works before we get to
Yeah, before we get to that point. But once again, we're budgeting in November for June of 25.
good.
So
I'm good.
that's why we have it in there. All right.
What's the other meeting space? For 40,000?
That's why Justin's here.
Oh,
And he thought
hi
he was
there.
gonna get away.
He was sitting on the other side, so I wasn't seeing him.
He did that on purpose.
Thought I was sneaking through here. So other meeting space, we have a few things in mind. I know there's a space over at the library. This is basically just to outfit other spaces that might be opening up that we would be able to provide coverage for. I know we have talked about that space at the library. Excuse me. There is a fiber drop over there in the clump room. We don't have anything over there besides the fiber drop at this point. We have done a couple. We've covered a few things over there. We really would like to expand what we do with the library. They do a ton of awesome stuff over there. We'd like to be able to highlight that. We just want to have that in place for any kind of opportunities that might come about as far as there's a space there, and especially I'm highlighting the clump room just because it's what's coming to mind here. But
this is a placeholder for equipment to expand services.
Yeah, exactly.
To other spaces than here and at the school or something like that.
Right.
Well,
And
other than here, other spaces
Other than
than
here.
here.
outside
That
of
would
here,
be
yeah.
that'd be if the school wanted to have a meeting room.
And I didn't know if that's a whole thing, but
But you have
there,
you have a portable unit that you bring over for the voting and stuff like that. This isn't that kind of stuff.
No,
is
this would be-
something that would be a permanent.
This would be more
install.
stationary, and to be moving stuff like that. Not it takes obviously manpower and hours, but it's also it's detrimental to the equipment to. And I know some of that stuff is built to be moved around and be mobile, but you get a lot more hours in use out of something that is stationary and isn't being moved around a lot and that kind of stuff. Especially like the new stuff. It's just not that it's more fragile, but there's a lot more moving parts and stuff like that. So. And I know the school is talking about maybe putting in some sort of meeting space in a proposed building. We would hope that there would be funding that on their end. But in case we might need something.
This is for permanent meeting spaces outside of town
outside
hall.
of town hall.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's for outfitting those spaces, not for creating those spaces.
No, it's just for outfitting
The equipment, yeah.
What
Yeah.
he needs.
When I saw it at first, I'm going, why are we buying or building space? Okay.
Yeah, it was just existing spaces that we could put equipment into. Yeah, the equipment cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Justin. And then this is what we're looking at for capital reserve expenditures and moving forward with everything. There is a dip from 2.1 to 1.4. The majority of that decrease from this current year to 24, 25 was the big purchase of that fire engine that we approved in 23, 24 for purchase. Okay. That's basically what I had. I'd be more than happy to talk about any other items that the council wants to go through and ask questions about. I think everybody's had a chance to speak. I don't know if the library would like to say anything at this time.
She's
No,
left by
basically,
herself
she
now.
said, Paul, you did a good job. No, if you have any questions specific to the library, they're here as well. So.
Everybody all set?
So, I don't want to say discouraging, that's not the right word, but I think the reality of everything going up in cost, again, I go to the
killing us.
dilemma of the cost and providing the same service. And let's be realistic, tax rate's gonna go up, it's just no way around it. And all of us are feeling, at least I am, and I think everyone else is feeling very responsible to minimize that, because we have to acknowledge that it's going to affect all of us. And yet, I'm looking, okay, where can you cut? What kind of control do we have? I think that's the dilemma I'm in, because if we do any cutting or modification, then it affects the services. And is that what we need to do? And I don't want to. It's
Right. It's all about efficiency.
it's going to be a very difficult budget season. You know, and I really encourage all citizens to watch, because they need to know and observe the kind of deliberation that's going on and the cost of things, and we need to be responsible to make sure that the public knows exactly the dilemmas that we're getting into here. So that's all I have to say about that.
But I mean, obviously, if we're going to do the same thing we've always done, it's going to be more expensive, right? And so I would encourage that if there's ways that we could do something different, I don't know what that is, right? I'm not a department head, but I would say if the department heads can say, hey, this is what we've always done, but if we do something different and, you know, it would be reduced costs to the taxpayers, then we should look at those opportunities. Because we can't do what we've always done and think that we're going to keep the budget in control by cutting. We're not going to get there. If we don't do something different, then we're going to have a higher budget, period. And we probably will anyways, right? But how do you maintain that as much as possible?
Tom Mahon always would say that just because we've done it that way, you get in that routine and nobody thinks about
That's a good point.
changing up the situation. So if it can be done, I'm glad you brought that up, Andy. That's good advice to everybody.
Got to stay
And I
relevant
think it
and
has to be
reinvent.
said that this council, at least as long as I've been on, for a long time anyway, has been very conservative and very careful about how we spend money. It's not as if we had a lot of extra we played with. We've never had extra that we played with. So that there's very few places that I can think of that we can cut back, because we've always cut back. We've always been conservative, as reflected, as demonstrated by our history. So it's going to be a very,
Well, I think one of the other challenges that we're going to have as well, as we're hearing already, you practically have to order vehicles 2 and 3 years ahead of time. And then we haven't even talked about if the new green standards for vehicles go through. Now you're talking about electric vehicles, if that holds, because it's in flux right now. They're finding it's not as good as what they thought it was. But still, it just compounds the problem, and it moves up the actual expense dates, because now you've got to put some money where your mouth is when you order these things. So it's not going to get better. I doubt it.
All right.
I'd just like to
Everybody's
thank
wanting
my
to go
department
home
heads.
out here. So, I know, absolutely. That's what I was going to say. I'm sorry to put you through it, but I'm very happy that you were able to stop by to answer any questions. And Sorry for the length, but I'm glad it was gone through in its completion. So
Thank you.
thank you again.
And I will bring this forward to the planning board, the majors, get their recommendations. Once I get their recommendations, I'll come back, share them with the council. Council will vote to accept or say no on the capital improvement plan.
All right.
Thank you.
Paul. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Can't wait to see it again.
All right.
Good night, guys.
It's gonna be where you go.
Still got minutes.
I'm done. When you- I know it,
I checked it before.
It was.
but other mics pick it up.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, probably yes.
So,
But everybody in the audience is probably going, yeah, it is.
Yeah.
We understand what she's saying.
Oh, yeah.
all right. Finally, on the agenda, approval of October 26, 2023 minutes.
Oh, just go.
Go for it, Matt.
Let's go. Move to approve.
Motion by Barbara,
Second.
seconded by Tom Koenig. Any further discussion? See none, I'll call the question. All those in favor of the minutes of October 26, 2023, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstain. 700. Comments from the press, comments from the public. comments
Move to
from
adjourn.
Council, no, we got Mackenzie over here.
I would just like to say that we were able to attend the Town of Merrimack Halloween party last weekend. And I believe there were over 1,000 people there. And so I would just like to give a huge shout out to Matt and his team at the Parks and Rec Department. I know all of the families that attended had a great time. I got to do a little dance party with all the kiddos, so that was a blast. I had a great time. So again, just thank you to Matt and his whole team and our Parks and Recs committee for all of the hard work that they had put into that.
Nope. Thank you, Mackenzie. Very true. Nancy?
Yes, thank you. Just a final reminder about the Knights of Columbus craft fair that will be held tomorrow from 5 to 8 at J Muse, and on Saturday from 9 to 3. And there will be a Wreaths Across America table there, so we can hopefully find sponsors for all of the wreaths so that we can place one on the graves of all of our deceased veterans. So I hope to see you there again tomorrow, 5 to 8 and 9 to 3 on Saturday. Thank you.
Thanks, Nancy. Barbara?
Just a reminder as well, Veterans Day is coming up, and the ceremony is planned at the Last Rest Cemetery. Be on the lookout in the forums on Facebook for the final details.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes.
I'd also like to say that one of our students who is in his last year of high school, CJ Fricano, he just received his Eagle Scout last weekend. So just a huge congratulations to him. I know he will be holding his court of honor soon. I know that date will come, but I believe the town council will be receiving the invitation to that. But there was a post online about it. So he's very involved in our community. He's also involved in his church. He does a lot of work with the special needs kids at the high school. So he's just a very involved student. So just a big,
Excellent.
big congratulations to him.
Yep. Thank you, Mackenzie.
Very
Thanks. All righty. See no
Move to
further
adjourn.
comments? Motion by Barbara.
Second.
Second by Nancy Harrington. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
700. Thank you, everybody.